So we're live now, Langy. Okay, guys, so I'm going to do a quick test. We're going to do some quick vocal tests here and make sure everything's coming through okay. Discord, can you guys say something for me and let me, and if stream, if you guys can hear, and
saying something,
confirm that that's working. Love how literal these guys are. All right. If you guys can confirm for me on out there in Streamland that things are coming, that would be great.
I'm on YouTube, so I'll let you know when it comes up.
Okay, excellent. Of course, something on my computer decided now is a good time to unplug.
Yeah.
Plug and plug back in. If you guys hear that. There's an echo.
I think I just heard...
Okay, yeah, I see you. I think I see where the echo's coming from. Give me a moment. Let me see if I can figure this out. Okay, let's try it like that. Can you guys if everybody confirm they can still hear me, and you two, actually, you know what? Hold on, maybe I know what the problem is. Check. That's what. No.
Yeah, I can hear you. There's no echo.
Yeah, it's better.
Okay. So again, let's confirm everybody can hear me. And Matt, if you can jump in, or let's do this one better. Sheets, if you can jump in for me and just confirm everybody can hear Orange Sheets.
Orange Sheets standing by.
Nice. And if you guys out there in Twitch and YouTube land can confirm that for me, we'll get started here shortly.
No more echo, says Tristan. Audio's good. Yeah. YouTube saying audio's good.
Okay, great. And of course, now chat's not working for me. Hold on one more second.
Twitch chat is still down. I don't know what the hell's going on.
Yeah, okay, so for those that are watching on Twitch, we're looking into it right now to see, but it appears that there's maybe something down with Twitch chat in general. We're not seeing any messages coming in from Twitch. There we go.
I was just able to...
Now I'm seeing some. Okay, good. And sound is good. Okay, thank you, gentlemen. It looks like now Twitch chat is back alive, which is obviously a good thing. Bear with me one more second.
All right. And as always, everyone is welcome on Discord.
Yes.
You're welcome to hop in and jump in chat with us.
Yeah, thanks for pointing that out, Matt. And so, yeah, as you guys will see in both Twitch and YouTube, there should be a link down in the description below that has the link to the Discord. As Matt just said, you guys are absolutely welcome to come chat with us here. We're going to keep this a little kind of, I mean, feel free to ask questions. That's always the goal of the channel here. But we're going to keep this one a little less conversational than we maybe normally would to give a chance for Orange Sheets to do most of the talking today. Yeah, well, we'll see, right? And to have him talk about, we're going to talk about the history of the fuel rats, kind of who they are, what they are, why. And then here in just a little bit, we're going to kind of do a rescue. We'll go through and, we've set up something so we can do, kind of show you guys what that's like from both the rescuer's perspective. Matt, Tranquil Terror, who you're here talking a good bit, is going to be our damsel. So he's going to play the client side of this, so you guys can kind of see what the whole process is like. And with that, I'd like to introduce Commander Orange Sheets, who is generous enough to sit down with me today and kind of take us through this. Sheets, why don't you, if you can just start with like when you joined the Rats, if you want to, where in the world you are, and just give us a little bit of history.
Yeah, European rat here, and well, I've been since almost from the very beginning, like something like within a week of when Shirley put it together. So
and were
I joined then, and I stick around, and nobody can seem to get me.
Get rid of you. Yeah, okay. Yeah. And so did you help found things, or did you kind of find the group after they had started and then jumped in at that point? Like, what was the origin?
Fuel Rats kind of started at the forums as a forum thread first, and it went on something like, I don't know, 15 pages until I joined a couple of days later, and we did a couple of rescues at the forums, but then we kind of noticed that it isn't the most perfect forum for this kind of activity. So some people hopped onto the IRC side and set up an IRC server for us, or channels from a server. And when I joined that, I noticed that it was a bit mismanaged. So I kind of saw an opportunity and properly started to manage it. So
yeah, okay. And so then
I wouldn't say I founded anything.
Yeah, no, I got you. And I know you guys, like, you know, one of the things to point out for those, because this wasn't clear to me either at first, is, you know, you guys are, it seems to me at least, very loose in terms of, you know, membership, in terms of kind of, you know, I remember a long time ago asking, you know, there was a guy that we played with that was quote unquote calling himself a fuel rat, and we weren't sure about that. And I remember going to asking, like, hey, you know, how does one actually become a fuel rat? And they were like, well, you don't really, you just, you know, you come rat with us when you have time. And so am I right that there's not really a very formal, there's a very formal process to go through the drill and go for saves, but am I right?
It's more like that we try to sucker people in and then stop them from leaving.
Yeah, okay. And roughly, do you know how many members are there? How many folks have actually done a rescue?
Well, I checked it, and it was about 1,700 who have been drilled so far.
Okay.
But it's like maybe something like 50 to 100 are active in a week.
Okay.
Perhaps so.
Okay, and then do you know roughly how many rescues a week you guys do?
Yeah, I can. I have to dig it up there.
Okay.
Real soon.
I know in the little time that I've been kind of paying attention and doing some things, you know, I've seen 2 or 3, you know, in, you know, an hour, right? So, you know.
Yeah, it is, and they usually come in bunch.
Okay.
Because it's not evenly spread throughout the days.
Yeah, of course.
People play when they play.
Yes, right. And it's great that you guys are obviously big enough that you've got people on duty 24/7, you know, with everybody across the world that plays. Yeah. I can't imagine there's ever really been a time you've had to turn away a rescue. Is that right?
No, we have had to put some on hold until we get a rat there.
Sure.
But,
sure.
Not lately. It was prominent in the early days, and especially when Xbox version came.
Okay. So to get players on Xbox. Sure. That makes sense. I would imagine the same problem with PS4 when that launched.
Well, somewhat, but not that much, because by then we had a quite solid rat base already, and some rats kind of had planned to go to the PlayStation.
Yeah, okay.
So when it launched, they rushed in the first day to get a good rat ship. And
sure, because they were all excited and knew that there was going to be the need, right? Yeah, that makes sense.
I got the stats now. We are currently at 43,185 successful rescues.
Wow, 43,000. And when do you know that's wow? That shocks me a little bit. I was guessing you were going to say in the maybe 10,000. And when was the very first save? Was that in 2014, or because I'm not exactly sure? I started playing the game. I bought it in 2015 and really started in 16.
Yeah, it was. I know it better in the in-game years, so 3,301.
Okay, 3,301.
2015. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Because the fuel limpets only came on that. Was it 1.2 or 1.3?
Okay. And were you guys,
remember
at that
it was
point
in June 2015.
Yeah, yeah, okay. And at that point, were you guys at all, I'm curious about the connection to Frontier. I know they've been rather supportive of you guys. For those that don't know, once you've done 10, first limpet rescues, meaning you're the first commander there, you earn the Fuel Rat badge. So I think it's fantastic that Frontier's given you guys that. So when Fuel limpets were initially added, was that something you guys were involved with Frontier on?
No. It came... Well, the story goes like this. We were founded by Commander Shirley Batcher, who before the fuel limpets became a thing, he ran out and tried to find a way to, get fuel, but there was none. So he got destroyed, and he was very bummed about it, because nothing he could have done. But then when the news came that they would bring the refueling limpets, he hopped into it, and kind of because he had this bad experience,
sure,
he wanted to save other people's from this
sure,
bad experience.
Sure.
So it was more like Frontier gave us the limpets, or rather I should say the Lord Braben gave us the limpets.
Sure.
And we followed.
Yeah, and then you guys developed the gameplay from there, which, one of the things personally I've always loved about Elite and the community is, they give us these tools and things, which some things aren't necessarily clear of how we would use them, and the community goes and builds these things. I think another great example of that is Buckyball, right? For those that don't know, they're an SRV racing group who works out, various courses and things on planets so that you can go race the SRV. And I don't know that Frontier planned that, but in a way I kind of wouldn't think so. And it's just a great example of the player community, using those tools, and it's a great example of emergent gameplay is really what it is.
Yeah, they create mechanism, and some players
sure
find ways to use it. And quite many early buckyballers also joined the Fuel Rats.
Yeah,
in the early days also, so we're quite tightly connected group.
Sure. And I'm guessing I'll share my first story with the Rats, which I'm guessing is similar to many. I was very early in the game, didn't know what I was doing. I remember when I was first kind of starting to learn outfitting a little bit, thinking, well, what do I need to waste space with a fuel scoop thing? I'll just go to a station, right? Why would I need to buy a fuel scoop? That's silly. I can just land and scoop. Well, of course, obviously that was stupid of me, and I'm flying around and I realize I'm out of gas and there's no station here. And I remember being so pissed, like, how can this be this way? This is so stupid. How can the game let you run out of gas? Just all mad. And so I start Googling and I find the Fuel Rats, and I thought, there's no way. This is somebody's trolling me. There's no way that these people are actually flying around just to help me, just to bring me fuel. So I went on my merry way and kept Googling. I think I even might have stopped playing that night, came back the next day, kept finding all these references to you guys, and sure enough, the next thing I know, and I had never winged up with anybody, I'd never made a friend yet at that point, and Commander Zeal was my first save, and Zeal came and brought me fuel, and I remember just sitting there dumbstruck that there's no way, right? This is just, this is amazing. Right. And when I tell my non-gamer friends about you guys, and I know that you've gotten a fair bit of press outside of the Elite community and the gaming community, that it's just, I've never seen anything like this, in gaming, really. And I love playing support roles in games, but for a whole community to build up, I think it's fantastic. Right. In those early days, talk to me about when the IRC was set up, how quickly did you guys grow to the level of kind of sophistication that you have now? Was that a pretty quick process? Was that organic?
Well, it's kind of a continuous process, and I can't. Well, there are a few stages, but it's more like, okay, we start doing things this way, and we try to figure out what's the best course of action, and therefore we get our standard operation procedures and whatnot, and how to tweak the IRC channels into serve us better. So it's kind of a okay. It was quite organic process.
Yeah, okay. So, I mean, that's what I would imagine, right? But IRC was what you guys went to pretty quickly, I'm guessing, after you realized the forums weren't going to cut it.
It was in the first couple of weeks. perhaps.
Yeah, that's what I would guess, right? And so then, as far as kind of running the show now, is there, one of the things that wasn't clear to me as I was reaching out to you guys is it seemed that there's not necessarily a head rat. Is that true for the most part?
Yeah, we don't have a traditional leader in that sense, but it's kind of we just kind of the rats lead the rats.
Yeah, right. I mean, I gotta imagine.
But then again, some people have just started doing things, and they have kind of shown to the other rats and community that they have the longevity to upkeep things. So.
Sure. And so then when those folks jump in, you just work with them, welcome the help as needed, and just coordinate that as a group. Is that right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. Okay. And then, to that, I know you guys are an in-game player faction. Remind me what your home system is.
Oh, yeah, we have actually two in-game factions. The first one is the Fuel Rats Mischief, which is based at Fuelum system. Okay,
great. So very appropriate system.
So you just open the galactic map and type in fuel in the search box, and you find M.
Well, let's do that real quick while we're showing everybody. I love that if you just search for fuel. Yep, and you guys are.
Yeah, and this system was in the game before the Fuel Rats.
It was okay
with that name, because when the group was formed, Commander Keren started looking for a home system, and he typed in the fuel and found the Fuelum. So
yep, and I see you guys are the controlling faction. Yep. Oh, of course it is. Right. And then you mentioned there's a second.
The second faction is in Colonia.
Oh, in Colonia. Okay, gotcha. Yeah. And I guess that's a great thing to go to. What, let's talk about, so obviously you guys have a presence in Colonia. I'm imagining that's a smaller percentage of your overall saves. Is that correct?
Well, the vast majority is within the original bubble, naturally.
Sure, of course.
But we have significant amount of those long-range rescues too.
Yeah, and that's a great segue. Let's talk about a couple of those. I know, if I'm right, you guys have done rescues at Beagle. There was a rescue recently, if I'm remembering right, that helped a commander reach the longest distance from Sol. Is that right?
It was back in December.
Yeah, tell me a little bit about that if you're familiar with it.
Well, we got the call that this commander was way out there, and he needed fuel, so 3 rats volunteered and started going, and they reached. The story is quite spectacular, and you can read all about it in the main game news media.
Okay. And Tranquil, if somebody can maybe find that story, if you guys have a moment and post it in chat, that'd be awesome. Right. Sorry.
Yeah,
go ahead, Sheets. Yeah.
Would be good. Well, yeah, it took them. I don't know. I can't remember specifically.
Sure.
How long it took, but something like 40 to 50 to 60 hours.
Okay.
Of game time to get there. And the client was already on emergency oxygen, so.
Oh wow. Okay.
So it had to be. It was the code red or case red rescue. Then, so 3 rats were reasonable for it.
Sure. And then that's another great segment. I want to get back to that and ask a few more questions. But briefly for those that don't know, tell us what a code red is. Kind of tell us about the procedure there when that happens.
Yeah, it's kind of it's one of those silly nicknames for special rescue, because most clients, from what I've seen, come to us so that they have fuel, but not enough to jump to any refueling system or anything. So those are kind of easy cases. We just prep them or ask them to minimize the fuel consumption, and then we get to rescue them, but these other clients who come in, they have used all their fuel, so they are on their emergency oxygen, which means that they have perhaps on average like 7.5 minutes of air left.
Yep. Okay.
So the trouble here is that they can't, when they log into the game, the counter runs, and when it runs out, they get exploded. So there's a timer in it. And because of that time limit, we send a couple more rats around so that we can increase the chances to get into their instance as fast as possible. And
and if I've got, just to clarify a few things for people that know, if I, let's say that I go to emergency oxygen, oh shit, like what do I do? And I start chatting with you guys, and let's say I drop down to 3 minutes of oxygen and you guys tell me to log out of game. What happens to me? Tell me how logging out affects that. Am I still going to die in 3 minutes? Explain that to everybody.
Yeah, well, this kind of when you log out to the main menu, the count timer stops.
Okay.
And it only goes when you are in game. So when a case red client comes in, first thing we do is make sure that they log out the main menu.
Okay.
Because we can send the friend requests and do all this organizing when they are in the main menu and can't use their oxygen.
Sure. And then
so we have them logged in only when it's kind of necessary to do.
And how do you then, let's say you tell them to log out really quickly, how do you then identify, not only where basically how do you identify what system they're in so you can start heading that way? Do you just have them log back in quickly? Do you look at the logs?
We trust what the client tells us.
Okay.
And the rest is kind of a trade secret.
Okay. That's fine.
Not really, but we just figure out ways to find it.
Yeah. Okay.
So sometimes we ask the client to pop briefly back in after the friend request so we can spot it from the galactic map.
Gotcha. And then,
because there's some markers when you are in open, for example, you see your friends all around the galaxy with those markers. So we use that.
And, for those, I want to go to a comment that Starscream just posted and make clear to everybody, because I kind of made an assumption. When we're talking about this long distance rescue that they did back in December, and that they've done, as I understand, a couple Beagle Point rescues. Beagle Point is the furthest system that you can jump to. I think maybe now with new jump ranges you can get a little further, but basically it's a system that is 65,000 light years from Sol. In fact, let me bring that up on screen for everybody, and I'll just show you where it is. And so to do a rescue there is quite a significant undertaking. When he says that it is, it is 60 hours of game time, he's not kidding, right? So if we look, I can't even bring the galaxy map up enough to show it. If we're talking all the way out here, let's plot to that again. And so, it's something where a lot of explorers will have that on their bucket list to make it to Beagle, and boy, to get all the way there and then find yourself out of fuel and be screwed, and your only choice is to die or self-destruct. That's obviously a pretty shitty thing to do. And correct me, Sheets, if I'm wrong with that one. Was that the one where somebody essentially flew in super cruise for a number of hours, and then there had to be like hopping tanking to get to them? Is that right?
Yeah, there was something like that, and I would say it was ridiculously long time in super cruise what they traveled.
Yeah, like double-digit hours. Correct. Yeah. That's what I thought. And so for those that, just to clarify a little bit further, basically, as I understand it, Beagle's as far as you can get. The guy got to Beagle, but since he wanted to set the distance record, he then set a course away from Sol, right, with Sol in his back, put it in Super Cruise and floored it for X number of hours. Then for the rats to get to him to fuel him so he could jump back out, the rats had to, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Sheets, had to jump each other to fuel each other. Like one rat would meet here and fuel them, then go a little further. Another rat would meet him there and fuel him, then go another further to get all the way to the client so that then he could jump back out, making it a successful trip. Have I basically got that right, Sheets?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
And perhaps the people on the chat can correct.
Yeah, exactly. If you guys find the story and correct us if we're wrong there.
And I want to tell about another rescue that happened on very early on. It was like within the first 3 months or so. So this was the time when in Elite we didn't have the rebuild repair option on our ships.
Oh, okay.
So if your module went to 0, that was it.
That was it. There was nothing you could do about it.
Yeah. So we had a client who had an explorer who had traveled I don't know, was it something like 3,000 or 5,000 Kylies, and he had 0% on his fuel scoop.
Okay.
So he couldn't refuel
scoop
out there.
Sure.
So there were something like half a dozen rats who went to the rescue, and they had to daisy chain the client back to bubble.
Oh, wow. Okay, because there was no way to get him back unless unless they continually fueled him to get him. And how far out was that? Was that all the way out to Beagle, or?
No. It was like something like 5,000 light years.
Okay. So still.
But in those days, that was a significant travel.
Sure. I mean, even today, that's still significant travel, especially when you have to have somebody continually following you to tank you as you go, right? Yeah. Okay.
It was a fun rescue to watch on the Galaxy.
Oh, I'm sure.
Because there was this stream of rats going back and forth, getting new limpets and all that.
Yeah, gotcha. Well, one of the topics, Langy in chat asked, and I wanted to touch on this anyway, is let's talk a little bit about griefing, right? Fortunately, I think it's something that probably happens less to the rats, as I think a lot of most player groups in the community, even if you're the type that maybe is going to do some griefing or do some, let's call it unconsensual PvP. A lot of us do draw the line at messing with rats, but obviously there are those that don't. Tell me about how you handle a situation if you straight up have a client that just is calling you just to kill you, or if you drop in on a client, and someone else drops into grief. Just tell me a little bit about that, a little bit of the history there.
Well, the thing is that when we drop in, we try to refuel the client, whether they are hostile or not.
Okay.
And if they are hostile, we try to get out of there, and if not, then we go to rebuy.
Yeah, and
that's it.
It just kind of is what it is, right? I mean, it's unfortunate, but as I understand it, you guys don't really try to engage. You don't try to stir things up. You don't make a big. It's just okay, great. Somebody killed me. Just respawn, and you just go back about your business. Is that right?
Yeah. Oh, and we also try to debrief them on point, kind of like. I see you that you had your weapons drawn and fired, which uses fuel, and you shouldn't do that.
Yeah, okay, that's a good way to handle it. I know that personally once when 3.0 was in beta, I was honestly testing out the new notoriety system in Crime and Punishment, and so I had just, I'll admit, straight up murdered a bunch of commanders just because, again, it was beta. I wanted to see what it would do, and because it was beta, and
boy.
Well, I was bad, right? And I was out of fuel and couldn't jump.
No sneakers for you.
No, I know. And I couldn't at the time because I couldn't jump anywhere and I was out of fuel, and because of the mechanics, I couldn't land in and refuel. So I was stuck with the only option of self-destructing. And I came to Rats to request a rescue, and I said, hey, I'm going to be straight up honest. I'm in beta. I'm in a combat ship. I am wanted. I do have notoriety. I'm not you know, I really am not calling you guys so I can grief you too. But if you don't want to come rescue me, you know, I totally understand, right? You know, because I could get that. And the attitude was, nope, absolutely, we'll be on the way. And minutes later, I had a rat there refueling me.
Yeah, we have fuel, you don't. Any question?
There you go. That's a great way to put it, right?
But I think we could now do your kind of a second drill rescue.
Yeah, okay. I think that's a great thing to do. So what we're going to do here, guys, and forgive me while you know, it's going to be a little bit of hard mechanics, me jumping back and forth to the browser to kind of show you guys what we're doing, to show you kind of, you know, my view, you know, as a rat. You'll also have to bear with me a little bit. I did my drill and a test rescue last night, so I've done a couple of these, but I'm still new to this, so I'm going to have, you know, Orange Sheets is kind of going to be helping me through this. But just quickly before we go to that, I just wanted to look and see and Matt, if you've been watching chat, if there's any other questions that we should jump into, you know, that I can answer before we kind of get started. That's more specific to ratting.
One question I had specifically was how do you find for Sheets actually?
Sure.
Do you find that a lot of commanders know about that they can synthesize life support now, and that, you know, being on emergency O2 isn't as serious of a problem as it was back when you couldn't? Do you find that a lot of commanders, you know, tell you that in the IRC?
Yeah, well, it seems that those who know, they know. But especially the new players are not yet familiar with it, nor do they have the materials for it. But it's quite common knowledge these days.
Okay.
And it helps tremendously.
Oh well, yeah, for sure. Any other questions in chat?
Yeah, I was just looking.
Oh, by the way, actually,
yes, and thank you, Refresh. By the way, just quickly, I want to give a shout out. Refresh FR is on Twitch right now, and he was the one that did my first rescue with me, my drill, and everything. So a big thanks to Fresh for helping me with that last night. It was actually a ton of fun. And for those that, you know, I'll also just say, you know, part of the goal here is for those that have always wanted to join the Rats, have been curious about this. I think it's something you absolutely should do. I waited a lot longer than I wanted to actually finally do it. I actually had hoped to have a video today published on joining the Rats, so I'm working on a tutorial for that, and honestly, it just got too late last night, and I didn't get it finished, but that'll go up later this afternoon, and it's going to be a fairly brief overview of what we're doing today, just to give those an idea of, or looking into this, how the process works in general, right? I'm going to leave the specifics, you know, to your drill, you know, and to your dispatcher when you do it, or overseers, what you guys call it, forgive me, when you guys do that, but it's just a general guide, right? And then Matt, sorry, you were jumping in with something else there.
I don't know why, but your stream says Tutorial Tuesdays, just an FYI.
Oh, which one does?
On YouTube.
Does it? Oh shit, it does. Hold on, let me fix that real quick.
I just noticed that. I was like, yeah, that's
Orange Sheets. Yep, that's not good, is it?
I mean, it's not a huge deal, but
no, but still. And okay, there you go. Right. That should have updated. Thank you.
The daisy chain rescue I mentioned was called the Operation Neospike, which some have mentioned at the chat.
There it is. Yep. Operation Neospike. Great. And that was the one we talked about earlier. That was the super long distance one. Is that right?
No, it was the daisy chain.
Oh, the daisy chain. When you talk about, yes.
With the broken fuels.
Gotcha. Oh, that I love that you named that. Yeah, that's perfect. Right. Okay, and this is actually a good point. Macaz Gaming just asked, what does a fuel rat ship look like? And I think that's a great idea. In fact, the build I'm flying right now, I'm going to post into chat for everybody. So Sheets, why don't you answer that question as I post in the build that I'm running?
You mean like what does a fuel rat ship look like?
Yeah, exactly. What's a typical loadout? You know, I'm flying an Asp Explorer, so maybe something in that range would be a good thing to discuss.
It kind of depends. That if you're going to long range rescue, then you want to maximize your jump speed and have a couple of those field repair units with you, and limpets, of course, the limpet controller.
Yep.
But you want to maximize your jump range and minimize your heat.
Okay.
So when you're going for long range, shields are at least turned off.
Okay, yeah, and I'm assuming for that you would run an A-class powered plant, correct?
Yeah, A-class, the smallest A-class which can power your
And
ship.
why would you run a small A-class there rather than a small D-class?
Because the A-class manages heat better. So when you scoop on every jump possible, you dive very near to the star, so the heat builds up, and if you have a large or ineffective power plant, then it overheats easily.
Yeah,
but the A-class just manages the heat perfectly.
Sure. And for for those that would be engineering a ship for that, I assume you would be doing things like low emission power plant, to again further lower the heat load. Is that right?
Yeah, and strip all weight as possible.
And yeah, Makaz just asked, do people specifically engineer for ratting? And absolutely. In fact, the ship I'm flying right now, I posted a more generic build. In fact, if you guys want, I can share my actual ship that I'm flying right now, which is, it's certainly not perfectly set up for fuel ratting, but that, it's not min-max, but that is what it's built for.
Now, before our drill rescue, I have to ask the specifications. What's your jump range?
So the one that I'm in right now is, I'll show it right now, is 40, well, laden with a full tank of gas. Right now it's 45.9, 46,
okay.
right?
And you have a fuel limpet controller.
I do. Let's go through and show that. So but you know what I don't have? I'm glad you mentioned this. I don't have limpets. So let's show everybody.
That's the classic.
Yes,
classic.
of course it is. Of course it is. I do it all the damn time. And you know what? I sure don't. So I'm glad we said this before I set out. Let me go back and grab some limpets. That would have been rather embarrassing, wouldn't it?
Yep.
I'm sure it would not have been the first time.
Number one.
Well, the funny thing is, a buddy of mine, I jinxed myself long ago. A friend that taught me how to mine was teaching me about limpet controllers and everything. And he said, now, the common mistake is before you leave, you forget to go to advanced maintenance and buy limpets. And I said to him, I was like, well, what kind of idiot would forget that? I mean, of course, you're outfitting for this. Of course, you would remember to get limpets. And he was like, no, actually, you forget all the damn time. It was like, nah, I'm never going to forget that. And look, I pulled the jackass move right now. So, for those that don't know, you would just simply go to advanced maintenance, restock, and then grab your limpets.
And I hope you watch the channel because there's a signal for you.
Let me look real quick because I do have that open. And we're in drill, correct?
Yes, it's on now.
Right.
It always comes at the time when you aren't really prepared.
Of course.
This is a good one.
Okay, so let me, and we're going to do this drill a little slower potentially to show you guys some stuff. So I'm going to show the browser now. Okay, so this is Rat Chat, right? So, or this is, for our cases, we're in a drill channel. So I see here that a signal has come in from Tranquil Terror, all right? And so it shows what system he's in and what case he's in. So I'm going to grab, if I can, his system name. We'll go back over to game and plot that. See how far away he is. All right, not too terribly far. Looks like he's in why is route unavailable? Is it because I'm in the station? Let's get outside real quick. And then we're going to report the number of jumps away we are. And let's see if they're throwing me a curveball here. Try that again. There we go. Okay, cool. Okay, so now we'll jump back in our ship and see that we are 6 jumps. So we're going to go back over to the browser and we're going to say 6J number 8 on my way. So we're letting dispatch know, and he's got 25 minutes of oxygen. He's logged to the main menu, and he does have synth available. All right, and so with that, let's get underway. So now I'll switch back over to game. Actually, let's see. Okay, so he's been asked, if we look in chat over here, that he's confirmed that he's been asked to add me to his friends list. Did I get the wrong case? Oh, no, I got the right case. Let's see. Could not find a case with that name or number. Go number 8. Okay, so you'll see here, go number 8, Exegius. They're telling me to go ahead and jump to that. If there were other rats, replying, we would, others would be sent.
Yeah, and we usually send the closest ones.
Yeah, sure.
Available. So
if I go back into game, we'll see that I do have a friend request from Tranquil Terror now. So I'll go ahead and accept that.
Oh, fun. It is Code Red Rescue, so...
Okay, I see that. So Code Red, meaning as we discussed earlier.
On a timer.
Yep. He's on the emergency timer right now. So we don't necessarily, I guess, Sheets, one of the things, like me as the rat, obviously I'm going to rush to get there anyway. I'm going to be getting there as quickly as I can. But at the same time, the rush would be with dispatch, working with the client to make sure that he's, logging out of game if necessary. They would be the ones staying on top of that, right?
Yes. We use the dispatcher to be the communication link between the rats and the client.
Gotcha. And so
very early on, we just had the kind of rats dispatch themselves, but then when we started having kind of many clients at the same time, it became it became impossible. So nowadays we do it more in a more strict manner.
Yeah, and again, that's going to be, dispatch's job to, to keep that, again, to keep the client, under, to kind of handle that part of it, right? The rat's job at this point is just to get there, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Yeah, gotcha. And as you'll see, quickly, I just updated at the bottom 4 jumps number 8, so I'm letting them know I'm 4 jumps away. And they just also, if you see down here at the bottom, updated the case that he does have synthesis available, even though he is on life support. Oh, yeah, and I forgot to say friend plus number 8. So that means we have friended up at this point. And so next I'll be waiting for a wing request. So I believe dispatch will be telling the client to invite me to wing. There we go.
Yeah. And all this time you are constantly flying to...
Yes, exactly. Just to make clear to everybody, if I jump back over to game, I've pretty much, other than to type a little bit, I've not stopped jumping. If we see, I now have a wing invite. So we'll now...
On average, one jump should take a minute max. So on every jump, which is possible, you dive in and scoop as much as you can, and then you...
That's right. So one of the things, obviously, I want to arrive in system with basically a full tank of gas, right? So that I've got plenty to give the client if needed. I think one of the things that I was wondering about when I was building this ship, and you can answer this for me, Sheets, is how important is an additional fuel tank, on my ship to this process?
That's not necessary, because, well, if you want to fuel the client a lot, then you should also have a lot of fuel. But most ships we use, they can spare the 8 limpets.
Yeah, gotcha. And is 8 kind of the standard that you transfer to folks?
Yeah, 8 or 12.
8 or 12. Okay.
Yeah, because those are enough for one max range jump for most ships, so they can jump to the nearest scoopable star if they are explorers, or they can switch to economy mode and travel to nearest station to refuel.
Sure. right? And if we see just quickly, I'm just going to note that if we see in chat, dispatch has continued to work with the client to make sure that he's got his beacon on. I'm noticing, and forgive me for not remembering sheets, I see that he has, if we looked, he's dropped his shields. So if we look in wing chat, his shields are down, which means he's done what they've asked in the disabling his modules. Do I confirm that in some way with dispatch?
Well, that's one of the things that if he hasn't, then you
then I would say
he hasn't, because don't signal the positive, only the negative.
Only the negative. Okay, okay, yeah. Gotcha.
Because the situation is unusual then, but now it's usual. The one thing though is that when you got into the wing with the client, there already was another person in the wing with them. So that's something you wanna tell the dispatcher about.
Okay, and it looks like we have someone in system with us, right? Not in wing, an Anaconda. Now I know who that is, but that might bring up some concern. Is that something I would mention to the clients?
To dispatcher, if it's...
I mean, to dispatch, that's what I meant. That's what I meant.
But just get to the client and try to refuel them as fast as possible.
Yep. And so I'm showing real quick, and I'm not sure if I was supposed to do this, I'm just letting dispatch know that I see the client's wing beacon, right? So I see him in system with me. If I come back over to game, I'm going to go ahead and lock on to his beacon. And for those that don't know that mechanic, when someone has a beacon on, I'll throttle down real quick and show you. So over here on functions, you would turn on your wing beacon once you're in a wing. And then with that, if I select a wing mate, I can choose that top choice, engage wingman navlock. And what that will do is, as soon as I'm within range, and the range is based on your speed and distance, when I'm within range, I will drop immediately into that commander's instance, and you'll do that much sooner than you would normally have been able to drop if you had just flowed to that location in normal super cruise, right? So if you have a wingmate that's at a station and you're trying to get to that same station, if you navlock to them, bam, you can get to that location much faster than just flying there. Just quick side tip for everyone. Okay, so we're pretty close at this point.
Do you happen to spot the black hole in the system?
You know, it's funny. I was just about to say, you know, one of the things I haven't done yet, because I was flying pretty quickly, was to honk the system and see what is here. I'm going to throttle down for a second so I can bring up the system map. And look at that. We do have a black hole. In fact, we have 3 black holes in this system. Right? You know what? I'll admit I didn't even know that this system was a trinary black hole, and one of them
I picked
very close. Oh no, this is great. In fact, when we're done with the rescue, because I don't know if Tranquil's been there yet, but he's never seen a black hole, so it looks like he's right at the black hole, isn't he? And here we go. As you see, we just dropped. Wow, what a pretty gas giant. Good location. Okay, so now that we've found, the first thing I'm going to do is deploy my cargo hatch and my landing gear. And one of the reasons I'm doing that is that way if I accidentally bump the boost button, I don't boost into the client. I'm going to let the client know. Hold tight, and I'll send you some...
Just get the limbets flying. That's
okay, so go ahead and just do that first. Come on. Get on out there. There we go. And then if I'm right, once I see fuel transfer complete, I let dispatch know.
Yes.
With a fuel plus. And then we'll go back to game. And we'll send a few his way. Okay, and so then I'll go back over to, thank you for the light show. I'll go back over to here. And okay, so now we've got someone that has jumped in. So for the most part, I'm just going to ignore them. I'm now going to tell the client that they can go ahead and bring their shields back online. Hello there, Refresher. And now let's look and see if he actually has a fuel scoop. He does have a scoop, right? So I see you have a scoop. Do you understand the dashed versus solid line on the galaxy map? That will show you when you Okay, he does understand that. Okay, great. I'll also check and see if he understands how the galaxy map works and scoopable scars.
Yeah, this is the bit we call debriefing. So,
yeah, explain. While I'm doing this, why don't you explain that, or Sheets?
Yeah, this is important because absolutely most of our clients are new players and they don't know the fuel mechanics yet. So this is where we teach them to avoid this situation in the future. And only like 10% of the clients come back another time, so it works relatively well.
Another tip for folks is when you jump in the upper right hand corner in your info panel up there, it will say the class of the upcoming star. So it's a really good habit just in general as you're jumping. As soon as you charge for jump, look up there, and if you see something other than, for those that don't know, KGB foam, right? And Sidge, of course, you oh yeah, sorry, wrong channel. As if you see KGB foam as your star class, you're absolutely great to jump to it. If you don't see that, you might glance at your fuel gauge. Oh shit, I don't have enough, and stop your jump. Go scoop before you jump there, assuming you're at a scoopable, right? Then another thing I'll show everyone on the galaxy map, if you go to the 4th tab here, the realistic map power play tab, and under map, under the drop down, I choose star class. You want to highlight the first 7, and then the key here is at the bottom, apply filter to route, will route you through scoopable stars whenever you plot, whenever a scoopable star is available. Right? And that got added, Sheets, what was that, like 2.3, 2.4?
Something like that.
Yeah.
The versions come so fast that I can't keep up with it.
Sure. Right, and then I'm just going to close out with the client. You know, normally I'm just saving a little time here. Normally I would explain through that with him. You know, explain this is, you know, that's how you filter the galaxy map. You know, see if he's got any specific questions, and assuming they don't, and I see if we look back over in the browser, we see here at the bottom, once I sent fuel here, right? They closed the case at that point. Am I right that dispatch might choose to send kind of the debrief messages? Isn't there something that dispatch can send there, Sheets?
Yeah, they can send the links to the.
Yeah, why don't you in dispatch or in the chat? Why don't you post that one? I just can't remember what it's. Bang! I can't remember what it is. Is it Bang KGB phone?
Yeah, a second.
Yeah. I see Matt's trying to mate with Refresh right there. As I saw you kind of bagging into. Okay, there we go. So if we see here, right? So Sheets did Bang KGB foam to me. So then that sends me a direct message with a link about that. And if I open that, which I'll do real quick, this is their documentation on exactly how to do that. Right? And they've even got a guide for it. That's great. Nice. All right, let's go back here. And then at this point, Uh-oh, somebody's shooting. Oh, okay. So now I see, did I see the refresh? You sent limpets to him too. Is that what I'm seeing heading out there? Yeah, because all of a sudden you went hostile.
It's a mayhem here.
That's great. That's great, right? It's funny that you go hostile from firing fuel rats at someone, right? All right. And at this point, I would tell the client, thanks much. Do you have any other questions? Assuming they don't, we would, at this point, break the wing and go, oh, he did fire weapons. Okay. Matt, nice. At this point, we would just go, we would break wing and go our separate ways. Is that right?
Yeah, pretty much. It's client continues to do what they do and you continue to do what you do.
And is there etiquette on the rat side around unfriending the client? Is that really just kind of the rat's decision, the client's decision?
Well, that depends, whatever they choose. Most people tend to unfriend because the friend list gets very crowded very fast.
Yeah, to that end, I'll just show real quick, and you guys can see how slowly the scroll list is going, right? This is just a brief look at, I'm kind of a bit of a friend's whore, right? Like anybody that friends me, I pretty much friend them back, right? So I can see how that does get, would get obnoxious, right? Tranquil as a cat. Yeah, so that's actually somebody mentioned that term for me. Sheets, why don't you talk about a few things? Tell me about about cat and tail.
Well, rats don't like cats very much, so or rather cats don't like rats. We love cats. That's not the issue. And the other term, the tail, is when a new rat joins, we call them ratlings, until they have done the drill and received the tail, which just kind of confirms that they have been drilled. So the dispatcher knows that they are sending capable people to rescues.
Yeah, okay. And so would you ever send someone on a rescue that had not yet done a drill? Let's talk about that process a little bit.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Especially if there's no other rats going.
But, okay. So the drill.
It's every dispatcher makes that decision how they feel.
Okay. So then, so a drill is not necessarily required to go do a rescue. Is that right?
Yeah. But it's highly recommended.
Sure.
Because that way we make sure that you know what you are doing and don't mess up during the rescue.
And there's a great segue there. What common mistakes do the rats generally make, aside from the moronic one I almost made of not bringing limpets?
Forget controllers.
Yeah, okay. Are there other common, go ahead, sorry.
I can't really think of anything. I'm sure the rats on the chat can tell stories, but...
yeah, and to that again, I'll say again, as we said.
I think all rats are qualified and good on what they do, so I don't go.
Yeah, no, fair enough, right? And I'll say this again. I know that I see some folks, if I remember right, I see some folks in Discord that are new that I've not seen here before. If you guys are rats and have any other stories or insights you want to share, if there are any rats listening that would like to join us in Discord, the links are there. Please do, right? I'd love to hear. Or if you guys are just in chat and want to share some stuff, please go right ahead.
Especially Commander Rusticolus on the Discord live stream chat. He's an old timer. He joined before me.
Oh wow, okay. Yeah, Rust, if you're, I see that you're muted right now. If you've got voice ability and want to talk, please do. If you want to just share with us in text chat, that's great as well. We'll see if we get a response there. He might be AFK at the moment. Who knows? And I would guess common things would be, one of the things that I think was a great suggestion to me early was to, and I did this, drop your gear, throw out your cargo hatch so that you don't all of a sudden, you've asked this client to lower their shields and then you fuck up and boost into them. That would be a pretty crappy thing to have happen, right?
Yeah, that has known to be happened, but the first couple rescues can be quite exciting, and people can mess things up easily. But,
sure, I mean, there's a lot of moving pieces here. At the same time, I think you guys have such a fantastic process, laid out for, how this works. Like it's such a smooth thing. It's, from both the client perspective, it's always been amazing to me how professional you guys are, right? Just, how organized something that's relatively unorganized, in some ways is, right? It's always been extremely impressive to me. I've had guys that, in Discords have said, oh, I'm out of fuel, blah, blah, blah. And we're like, oh, call the rats. Oh, I don't want to bother them. And it's like, not only is it not a bother, there are probably rats sitting there, just dying for somebody to need a rescue. Am I right?
Yeah, because that's the reason why most people are here. One thing about the fuel rats I'd like to say is that I think you've been mentioning us being a group a couple of times.
Yeah.
And the group in gaming usually has this kind of a bit hierarchical connotation and kind of organized and closed membership thing. But Fuel Rats is more like a volunteer organization. So you join up us and you do the volunteering as much as you like, and then you can just leave. And it's perfectly fine.
Yeah, so you just kind of come and go as you like, like if I think tonight I'm in the mood to do some fuel ratting while I'm playing. So, and actually, let's talk about that. Like if you're tell me what it's like to be a fuel rat on duty, right? If I'm going to be a rat right now and I'm going to be on duty, what does that mean? What is my gameplay like for that night?
Well, you mostly want to observe the rescues channel, and when a suitable rescue comes, you punch in the client system as fast as you can and call the jumps, and then you're on duty.
Okay.
But in the meanwhile, when you are waiting for the rescues, you are kind of also off duty at the same time because you don't have a gig. So you're on duty only when you are delivering fuel.
Okay, so if I'm just,
so
I'm outfit, I'm just kind of flying around. If I don't have an active, I'm going to fuel someone, technically I'm not on duty, I'm just kind of available.
Yeah, you're waiting.
Is that right?
And, yes, and you are not pinged for rescues, but you are pinging, you are kind of calling when you see a rescue which you want to take.
Yeah, so me as the rat, yeah, it's my responsibility to watch chat and to throw my hat in the ring to say, hey, I'm 3 or 4 jumps away, or I'm 10 jumps away, whatever it is. And then it would be up to dispatch to say, okay, that's great, but we've got somebody that's 2 jumps away. Would dispatch ever tell me don't head there? Or would it just be
yes,
they
sure,
would?
Sure.
Okay, gotcha.
They can tell you to return to base.
Yeah, because you're just, it's not necessary at that point, right? Yeah. Something
and when you pick a rescue, then you are committed doing it, and it's kind of a bad form to quit rescue. Sure. Mid
rescue, yeah. Like once you've committed, right? You've committed basically. One quick thing, this is just a side game mechanic thing I want to point out to folks. I stopped at this star for a minute to show you, and I know my HUD colors are different, guys. So I'll explain in yours. But if you notice on my HUD right now, if you see the star that I'm at the moment, you see how it's a dark blue, and for a commander for standard HUD colors, it would be a darker orange. What that's telling me is I am currently not safe to charge for jump. So if I charge right now, I am going to overheat before I get jumped. If you notice, go ahead,
If you're not sparking, you ain't flying.
Well, that's fair enough, right? I love that.
That's lesson when you do.
That's great. That's great.
This with bucketballers. So
love that. So you guys will notice as I fly away from the star, it's going to go light blue for me. It would go light orange for you. As soon as that happens, now I'm safe to charge and jump. So whenever you're scooping, just in general, as you're flying by a star, if you're honking and waving and you're getting ready to jump, as soon as you see that go to that light color, that's when you know you're absolutely safe to jump. Because a lot of times I know early for me, I would constantly be, you know, hey, is it, you know, do I jump now? Can I jump at 40% heat, 90%, 70, whatever it is? Just look for that star to change color, and that's when you're safe to jump.
And only when you see fire and sparks, you kind of know that you're over 100%.
Sure, sure.
And damaging.
Am I right?
And for fuel wrapping, it's kind of, if you're on a long distance rescue,
yep,
then you want to watch the heat, because almost the first thing that takes damage from overheating is the cargo hatch. And if the cargo hatch malfunctions, then it dumps your cargo, and
that's a great point.
Then that's bad.
That's a great point.
You have the synthesis.
Sure, sure. And most, yeah, I also would assume, like in my build, because this is what I would call a short range rat ship, I didn't bring an AFMU or an auto field maintenance unit and for those that don't know, a field maintenance unit is what you use to repair your modules, as opposed to repair limpets, which I also want to talk about. Repair limpets would repair your hull and your canopy, so long as your canopy's not blown out. So an AFMU would be a very important thing to bring on a long distance trip, just in general, because if you do take damage to any of your modules, that's really the only way to repair them.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, yeah. Let's see, what was I just noticed that Rust is now unmuted in Discord. Are you with us, Rust?
Hello, yep, I'm here now.
Yeah, yeah, welcome. And as Sheets was saying, are there any stories you'd like to share? Any other things you'd love to interject with us?
Oh boy, does he have stories.
Great. Well, we found the right guy then.
Yeah, I've got one actually relevant to the overheating and cargo hatch.
Yeah.
Way back when, before everyone was going out to Beagle Point, I was running support on a rescue out to about 32 Kylies. Out beyond where Colonia is now. And about halfway there, I had a cargo hatch malfunction and dumped all my limpets. Oh shit!
And quickly, just tell me, just so that everybody understands, tell me what a Kylie is.
Kylie is 1,000 light years.
Okay.
So KYL.
Yep.
KLY. Yeah.
Great.
So it was a very long way out, and luckily the other rat that was on the rescue had plenty of limpets and could transfer some to me when we got to the actual client's location, which was a successful rescue at the time.
Great. So then you were able to
stressful rescue too.
So you had an AFMU and were able to repair your cargo hatch, is that right?
It only malfunctioned. So once it's malfunctioned, it can still operate.
Sure.
Yeah. And back in those days, we couldn't synthesize limpets either. So
yeah, because that was new in 3.0, is that right? Or was that 2.4 we added that? I guess it was 2.4, wasn't it?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. Right. And it is, for those that don't know, the material costs are pretty high. If I remember, they're 10 nickel, 20 carbon, something like that. Iron.
Let me check real quick for you.
Now, and if you want to know, Tranquil worked out exactly how many atoms of oxygen you would get. Do you want to tell that story real quick, Tranquil?
So I decided that it would be a good idea to try and figure out exactly how much iron and nickel it took to synthesize the amount of oxygen you needed for a D-class refill, and the math works out differently because I realized later that I had done it wrong. But essentially, the average person breathes in, I think I said, 8 liters a minute?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, so you breathe in about 8 liters per minute of air, and then going off that, you figured out, so you need 60 liters for 7.5 minutes. And then going off that, I figured out, well, if you need 60 liters, and if you're breathing it, it needs to be at least 20% oxygen, 80% nitrogen. So I went off that standard and figured out how many moles of each gas you needed. And then from that, I went and figured out exactly. The only way it makes sense to me is if the synthesis machine in your ship, we'll call it that, actually took apart the atoms of each nickel and iron. So I figured out how many protons, neutrons, and electrons you needed, And then from there, I figured out exactly how many atoms of nickel and iron you needed, and it boils down to, I think I said like 100 billionth.
Yeah, it was ridiculous, right? Yeah, yeah. You needed very little, basically. Yeah,
I have to redo the math.
Yeah, yeah. So it was just funny that he figured all that out, right?
Yeah.
And let's go, to a couple questions folks were asking. One of the things I wanted to get at too was repair, right? Because repair limpets got added recently. To either, and I actually also do want to go back to Rust to put some potential stories, but either of you guys, either Rust or Orange, before we go there, tell me a little bit about repair limpets, what the policy around repair is, just give us a little bit about that.
Well, if someone comes in with a repair need, we assess the situation so that if it's critical or like that, then we head out. But it's well, we do those, but not as much as fuel things.
And so you would do specifically a repair save rather than just a fuel. Like, in other words, they don't need fuel; they just need repair. That is something you guys would do.
That depends on the situation.
Okay.
If it's an explorer somewhere.
Sure.
Out there, then yes, we would repair or at least help them to find repairs.
And do you know the mechanics? Because I don't even really think I know this on, how many limpet, like what one repair limpet buys you in terms of hull. I'm imagining it depends on the size of the ship.
It depends on the ship. And someone has done the calculations.
Okay.
There are tables out there.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. But it does vary based on the hull size and integrity and stuff. Okay, that's what because as I've seen before, it's not like one repair limpet maybe gives you what, a couple, 3% maybe.
Perhaps it depends.
Yeah.
It's a healing potion. It gives you hit points.
Yeah. Sure. Sure. That's a good way to put it, right? In other game terms, right? And so then let's go back to Rust. I'm just curious what other, or any of the other rats, I see some others have joined us. If you guys have any other great stories of, either interesting saves, interesting situations that you've had to deal with, those sorts of things. What else would you guys share?
In the early days, we were doing lots of experiments as to how quickly you could refuel someone. And someone, Commander and Uranium, built a Anaconda and just filled it with fuel limpet controllers.
Okay.
And I don't know if it still does, but the fuel limpets could damage your hull.
Oh, really?
Got refueled.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they fixed that yet. But
they have fixed that.
Okay, good.
Okay, right. So, but yeah, I can't remember how many limpets got launched. It was something like 40 odd limpets were launched in one go and absolutely destroyed the poor test flight.
Oh, did it really? Oh, that's hysterical. You griefers. I knew the fuel rats were griefers. Look at that. Just attacking commanders.
First we drill holes to your fuel tank and then we explode you with our limpets.
Oh, that is really funny, actually, isn't it?
Yeah, we used to have standard operating procedures back then for avoiding that happening, and especially the Operation Neospike that Orange was talking about earlier, where we had to chain gang.
Yeah,
Basically, we had to be really careful that we couldn't fire too many limpets, because we did actually damage his hull. It didn't have much hull as it was left. It all got a bit stressful towards the end.
Sure, right. Yeah, and let's talk about one of the things we haven't really talked about much. That's the more negative side of what happens when a save is unsuccessful. Like, really, usually, what are the reasons why? Are they kind of unavoidable at times? Tell me a little bit about that.
Most of the times, I'd say it's due to instancing issues. So. But that has been getting better in the recent years. But I think that's the most common thing, that we can't reach the client.
Yeah, and
even if we are in the same system and all, and
sure, and we, as a combat pilot who wings up with friends quite a lot to do things, I can absolutely relate to and understand that. Rust, would you say the same?
Yeah, instancing, and also clients not necessarily listening to instructions, so logging back in when they're almost out of oxygen. That's used to be quite a common reason to lose a client. And again, back in the early days, overeager rats I know I killed at least 2 clients by accidentally boosting.
Okay, all right. You know, because
we used to race as well. We didn't have dispatch, and there used to be 3 or 4 of us all racing to one client.
And you're trying to beat each other and getting all excited about it. Yeah.
But that was like the Formula Ones, that once deaths started to happen, then the ruling became more strict and the race became safer.
Sure, right. And you know, when one of the things I'll admit was a little surprised about when I did my stuff last night was, you know, that you guys do ask clients to, you know, turn off all modules, and I obviously get that from a Code Red perspective, but I was a little surprised to see, you know, on the one hand that we ask clients to turn off shields, right? Because I was like, oh my God, why would we ever ask somebody in open to drop shields? But then I understood, and correct me if I'm wrong, that a little bit of that is to know if the client is going to be hostile when you arrive. Is that part of the idea there?
It's more that we know that the client has listened to the dispatcher and turned off the modules to reduce the fuel.
Yeah. Okay. And you know, talk about that a little bit, because I'm not sure that everybody listening even understands that. So tell me about how my modules do affect fuel.
So every module, all the main modules, they have a power consumption. So if you can show the right-hand panel on the stream and the modules bit there.
Yep. So and I'm going right now, if everybody watches while you're talking, I'm dropping my modules, and if you guys notice my fuel usage at 0.97 tons per hour, am I reading that correctly?
It's something like that,
yeah.
Yes. So there is the power consumption, and you can see that thrusters take quite a lot of the power, and shields especially. So when you turn those modules off, your ship uses less fuel, and you know, your reserves last longer and you stay alive.
It's always been interesting to me that these modules use power and use fuel. It's always bugged me, actually, even though they're not active. Like right now, my fuel scoop isn't active, so why is it using fuel? I guess you could argue that it's sitting there ready, kind of like your TV's powered on but not displaying anything, I guess, or you know, that kind of thing, right? And the same would be true of heat too, right? Like my modules would be generating heat if they're powered on, correct?
So on longer exploration, or also on the longer rescues, you turn off the unnecessary modules to reduce the power use and thus the heat your ship generates, so you can scoop safer. Sure, right? And if you notice, like right now, I've just got my life support left turned on, and I'm using 0.05 tons per hour. If I turn that off as the last one, I'm now at 0, right? So I'm not using anything. As we would expect, the big one is always going to be thrusters. And if we see that when I turn my thrusters on, you know, that rockets back up quite a lot, you know, again, as we would expect, right? And that's obviously going to be based on our power consumption here, which is really the amount of fuel we're draining. Did you shut down your life support?
I did. So let me turn off my thrusters. I'll do that one more time. So if I turn off life support and I go back, you can now see on the edges of the screen that my helmet has come down, for those that don't know. That's also, just as a quick side, if you're in VR, it's kind of very cool, because you literally can see in the 3D effect in VR, you can see that your helmet guard, your face guard, is right in front of your eyes. It's actually really hard to focus on it because it's so close to your eyes.
One cool feature is also that when you are powered down, your heat goes down on the ship, and when it goes down under 5%, you start to get frost on your ship.
That's right. And so if folks can see, the funny thing is I tried to pitch forward so I could see, but obviously my thrusters are off. But if you see around the edges of my canopy, absolutely it's starting to ice up. The other thing, if I'll turn game sound back up quite a bit, you'll hear, I'll be quiet for a second so you can hear the breathing. Right? hope that's coming through. I also can hear the ice kind of crackling on the windshield, just like just like I would if it were if I were popping a heat sink, right? And yeah, somebody Shatterbeam just said, code red, I'm on emergency oxygen, and yep, I sure am, right? So let's turn that back on, and when I do, you'll notice my cockpit starts to warm back up. If I'm right, is it life support that will warm my cockpit back up? Is that right, Sheets, that my cockpit now will warm back up? Hello, Matt.
Yeah, it should.
Of course, with Matt bumping into me, thank you for the hull damage, right? And I'd certainly, if I turn my thrusters back on, I'll start generating enough heat. Another thing that folks might not know, if you look on the bottom right of my HUD, just above where it says fuel, you'll notice there's that little flat line there that normally is much, much more active. Let me turn my shields back on. For those that don't know, actually, I'll go ahead and turn everything on. That is my, that's your heat signature. Right. So for, as I'm just in general flying around, that's going to be the heat that's generated from my ship. That would be the signature for other ships to be able to detect me. So for example, if I move around a bit, you'll notice that starting to come back up and getting a lot hotter. If I go silent running, right, which I'll do, you'll notice it's now getting, and as my heat builds, let me actually move a bit while I'm in silent running. Right, and so now I'm at 50% heat, and you'll notice that heat signature line has gotten much, much bigger, right? So that's just a quick side for those that that don't know what that is. And thank you, Kermaine. I see that you're on your way. I appreciate that, guys. For those in chat that see on Twitch, that's what the that's what the codes look like as we're going through. Apparently, Matt is still trying to mate with me, and getting us a warning.
Just love tabs.
Thank you. So and I'll go back to Soul and Orange as well, or if any of the other rats that have joined us, if you any other stories that you guys would like to share, good, bad, ugly, and different.
Well, there's two of them I'd like to relate.
And this is T.S. Deneen. Am I saying that right?
Yes, Dean is how you say it. Their in-game name is Timnus.
Okay.
I'll never forget my first rescue. And it just so happened that I was the one closest. It was like 6 jumps. Everyone else was like twice as far away, and I hadn't quite got my tail yet. I'd gone through a few drill rats, and just as I got started, it turned into a CR. Well, this put me on edge. I was more than determined to get there, and I was not responding to dispatch like someone normally should. I was paying more attention to my getting there and getting the guy the fuel than anything else.
Okay.
And I had not learned about wing lock. That was the one thing I had not learned about.
Okay.
I got into the system. The guy had less than 30 seconds of air left, and I was trying my hardest to get to him, and I missed the first shot. Then I noticed that they said something about wing lock. I used the wing lock, and then got in on top of him, hit him with the fuel limpet with only 2 seconds of O2 left.
Wow. Okay.
I got my rat tail the next day. I mean, they sent me through the thing and got rat.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah, we got one player that came into the dispatch, and they're going, well, I got someone here that needs fuel but can't talk to you. So I'm going to talk for them. And we said, okay, fine. And we sent someone out. Person got there. And, it was like, I think it was 10 hops for them. Person got there, found out that it was an NPC that was getting fueled. That happened twice in the fuel rats that I'm aware of. Then after that, we've gotten to the point of knowing whether or not it's a player or not.
Okay.
It's actually calling for fuel. And, I'll never forget my first dispatch. There's just never going to be anything to match that.
Yeah. Well, just like I think a lot of us, for me, for example, never forget our first first time we were rescued by a rat. I know from what I've looked that Commander Zeal is still active. And I think he's actually one of the higher ranked, rats, or in terms of number of saves. And he was the rat that saved me the very first time. One of the things, just very quickly, I'm showing on screen. Refresh wanted me to show the rat badge, and so I'm zooming in on that right now. This is a badge that, and I think this is fantastic that they've done this, that Frontier has given you guys, and done it in such a way that that the rats can give this out when it's earned. And if you guys will tell everybody, what's it take to earn that badge? Sheets. I'll throw that over to Sheets again, if that's okay, Sheets.
Just dedication and eagerness and willing to help.
Okay. But I mean, but specifically, like for me to finally get that badge, you have to do 10 first limpets. Is that right?
Well, something like that.
Yeah.
It can depend. So.
Yeah. Okay. So it's basically something you earn, after you've done a number of rescues. You're part of the community. You're not just. It's not just. You don't earn that on your first rescue, correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, unless it's, as I understand it, maybe special cases, things like that.
Of course.
Sure, right. Yeah. So yeah, and I also see that Refresh has got the cannon badge on his nose as well. I don't even know that I know how you earn that one. Right? If Refresh, I know he's in chat. I don't know if that's something you can share. If anybody else knows in voice how you earn the Canon badge, if it's very similar, you just, like as you're a member of Canon, you just help with things, or if there was a CG for it, or how that works.
You have to have the big roll of tinfoil first, and
Gotcha.
Just kidding.
Be part of the canon rule. Okay, so it's kind of the same thing. You just, you're not going to get it your first day you've joined, but it's something that you earn, right? That makes sense. All right. Any of the other rats have any other stories to share? Any horror stories to share? I don't want to get too much into the griefer kind of stuff. I imagine that does happen pretty rarely. Anything there you guys want to share about, or any other fun stories?
Well, space madness always happens occasionally on long-range rescues, so it can get interesting to watch.
Sure, right. And, if you're doing a long-range rescue like that, are most rats very just scoop, jump? Are they, doing some sightseeing on the way, or maybe doing sightseeing on the way back? Do they self-destruct to get back?
On the way back, if they are doing it. When you are on a long-range rescue, you want to get there as fast as possible.
Sure.
Not all of us fly back. Some of us press the button.
Yeah, some of you just teleport home. Right.
Yeah, the magic teleport.
Yeah, and for those that don't know where the teleport button is, it's right here at the bottom of functions. It's called self-destruct.
It's right under the reboot.
It's right under reboot repair, right? So if you want to teleport back, and of course, now that the mechanics have changed a little bit, it was that you would teleport back to the last station you were in. Now the mechanics are kind of screwy in that it's the closest station unless there's not one in the system, or it's changed a bit, right? But it's certainly a lot quicker than getting back, right? Let's see, around 750 have that. 17 other codes have been handed out. Okay, so I believe Kerman, if I'm saying that right, said there's about 750 rats have the badge. If that's and then 17 other codes have been handed out. Is that other codes for the badge, or am I reading that incorrectly? If Rust or Orange, or if Dean knows the answer there.
Well, I don't know what he means.
Okay. We'll see if he responds.
Some special events or something like that.
Yeah, exactly, right. And to that end, do you guys as a player group, I guess two questions here. One, do you organize kind of fuel rat events? And two, do you guys participate in BGS?
Well, yes and yes.
Okay.
And the events, well, occasionally or quite rarely, it kind of depends. But we are usually collaborating with some other group. So.
Okay.
If anyone has any nice suggestions, then call us and let's talk.
Yeah, okay, to get together to do like, you know, to do maybe like racing like Buckyball does or any of that kind of stuff. Yeah, gotcha. And then as far as BGS, you guys do run BGS, you know.
Well, we observe it. It isn't a high point, but just before the engineers came, it was kind of everyone played it, so
yeah,
we also get into it. But now it's mostly for keeping our systems.
Yeah, sure, under control, so, right? Yeah.
But we are not engaging in wars with other player factions or any of that. So
yeah, you guys try to stay out of.
Yeah, there's plenty of space for everyone.
Yeah, and as I understand it, you guys try to stay, I would say, this is a weird comparison, but it's kind of like Alcoholics Anonymous in that you try not to do any kind of endorsements or cause any kind of drama or engage in any of that kind of stuff, right? It's, you know, your job is to bring fuel, and that's pretty much it, right? Am I basically right there?
We have fuel, you don't. No questions.
Perfect. And then somebody...
And for that reason, so we serve everybody. We have no kind of limit to whoever you are. If you're out of fuel, you can come.
You know, and
we serve you fuel if you know, need. But for that reason, there are those like Inara or other wing stuff. We don't do coalitions or anything because that would kind of we want to accept everybody and work with everybody, so we can't single out anybody in that sense.
And am I right? And actually, one thing I want to point out that if anybody saw in Twitch chat right now, they've been discussing like how many how many rescues are there generally in a day? And the number I'm seeing battered about is between 50 and 60. So, you know, if for those
that's about it.
Yeah. So, you know, really, if you think about that, you guys are doing a rescue something. By the way, thanks for the flybys, guys. Right now, you're getting some really cool video on stream. You know, really, that means you guys are doing a rescue roughly every 20 minutes, right? Which, you know,
about so, yeah.
Yeah, and I think the other question, I don't know if I asked this at the very beginning or if there's an answer, or actually I do think you answered this and I don't remember the number. Roughly how many commanders have you guys rescued at this point? It was a huge number.
43,000.
Yeah, it was 43,000. That's that's unbelievable to me, right? You know, I would venture to say there's not another player group in another game that has done something like that to that scale. That's very, very impressive, right? I also see. No, please go ahead.
Sorry, there was a comment in the chat there about this one specialty we have, and Rusty Colors was one of those who kind of created this tactic called tactical phase.
I was just about to ask that. Yes, please explain that.
So it can happen that a client has tried to scoop from a T-Tauri or Brown Dwarf and has flown too close and dropped into the emergency zone, or what it's called.
The exclusion zone. Yeah,
that one. And they can't get out of there. So how the game system works, that if you are just trying to drop into the same wing instance, it doesn't drop you there, but only further out, so that you wouldn't get into that area.
Okay.
So those early rats made some tests and came up with this tactic that you can actually drop into that area. If you could tell about it more, Rusty, I'd appreciate it.
Basically, you just fly at the star or planet where the client is stranded, and you have to line up. It's a long time since I've done one. But you basically line up. You have to line up precisely, as Pistu says. Otherwise, you end up thousands of kilometers rather than 10, 20 kilometers away from the client. It was, in the early days, we all thought it was just network instancing was the problem, and a few of us realized that no, it's actually being within the exclusion zone when you actually drop out meant that basically the wingman navlock just didn't work, which is probably from a safety perspective from the sort of developer's point of view. But yeah, no, it's lots of people enjoyed the training for that because it's a bit of fun, and it was great fun actually doing the so-called science to discover the tactic in the dim and distant past.
Yeah, yeah. You know, and Rusty, you know, we've talked, you know, Orange has talked a lot kind of at the beginning, and I'm not sure if you were here at the very beginning of the stream, you know, when we were kind of going through some of the history and stuff, and, you know, he had some great perspectives, you know, and some great thoughts on it. If you've got any additional thoughts on, you know, or stories that you would share about the beginning, you know, how things got started, how you joined the Rats, you know, what your early experiences were like, I'd be interested to hear that. I think that'd be great.
Right, yeah. So I joined the Rats because I did the original Buckyball Sagittarius A-Star challenge.
Okay.
And it actually took me 17 hours, embarrassingly at the time.
Okay.
And I was flying back from that, and it was about a week before Fuel Olympics became a thing.
Okay.
And I was in the neutron fields, jumping neutron star to neutron star, not really paying attention.
And was neutron jumping, neutron boost, were they a thing back then, or that wasn't a thing yet, was it?
Boost.
I didn't think so.
It was back in those days, neutron farming was the quickest way
for
of
money.
Credits
Yeah.
So way before rotor riches. Things so you had to be careful because you were doing little tiny jumps that were using hardly any fuel, but you weren't hitting any of the KGB foam stars.
Yep.
And normally, the star density is so dense with stars out there that you're within a light year or so of a scoopable star.
Sure.
Unfortunately, I really wasn't paying attention, and I completely drained my tank.
Okay.
And I can't remember, I think something like 80 light seconds from 2 scoopable stars.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
I could see them, and I thought, well, I've got just enough. I've got a little tiny slither of fuel left in the reserve tank. I might make it. And I didn't. I was literally. It was so close. It was horrible. So yeah. And then next thing I see was Surly Badger set up the Fuel Rats thread. So I instantly on day one signed up to be a Fuel Rat, and got heavily involved at the start. So the first official rescue was on June the 9th in 3301, which was Commander Anuranium rescued Commander QF.
Okay.
And if I remember rightly, it was a very long supercruise journey, and again, back in
this
those
was
days,
just quickly, if I can jump in, when you say the first rescue, that was the first, like, you weren't testing, you weren't doing anything. He was a random that came. I need help, and you guys helped him.
Yeah,
is that okay? Yeah. Just making sure we're defining that right. Gotcha.
Yeah, that's right. So it's the first official using the Fuel Rats rescue.
Sure.
The thing I remember most was Anuranium was upset because it cost him a fortune in hull integrity because it was such a long supercruise journey. Because back in those days, again, you flew a long time in supercruise, it killed you.
Oh, did it really? Okay. I didn't realize that myself. Okay, interesting.
And credits it was much harder to get credits.
Oh, of course, yes, very.
And then that's the following day, I got the second rescue, which was Commander Lightspeed.
Okay.
Which was nowadays, I mean, it takes minutes to get rescued.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, of course.
Back then, it was hours. I mean, the thing came in the morning. I think I got to him sometime in the evening.
Okay.
Only 3 or 4 jumps away. It was just there was no urgency back in those days.
Sure. Well, yeah, exactly, and that's what I was gonna say. I heard in early when Sheets was talking with us, he was mentioning that, right? And I got to imagine a communication method like that for something like this would just be atrocious, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's right. We also had there was a competitor service fired up soon after the Fuel Rats were started.
Okay.
Based around the Steam forums. They called themselves Elite Emergency Assistance.
Oh, okay. Not heard of them actually. Okay.
They lasted for a few days. And,
okay.
didn't really go on very much after that.
And that's actually a quick side, and not to get into, to try to stay away from negative stuff, but I know there are some, or at least I know there's at least one competitor group to you guys, and, I'm assuming that is all very friendly competition, friendly rivalry, I would hope anyway, and that it's not necessarily even looked at as competition, really. It's just everybody's here to help, and if they get to if somebody goes to them, great. If somebody comes to you, great. Is that basically right?
Yeah, we have fuel, you don't.
I love making that simple. Yeah, okay, that's totally fair, right? And it's while we've been talking, by the way, I think I've missed one, but I've been sitting here watching Fuel Rats to see if a request comes in, see if we can go do one more while we're sitting here. But I guess, Rusty, if there's any other, like we're going back to when we're talking about the beginnings of everything, was it pretty quickly that you guys jumped to the IRC? Were you involved with that? How did things grow from there?
So because I've got in a sad way, a couple of years ago, I sort of documented the first few weeks of the Fuel Rats as a history.
Oh, great.
And it looks like it was 3 weeks. It was day 21.
Okay.
The IRC was actually set up initially. And we also got the first, the website, fuelrats.org, was set up as well.
Okay, okay.
But back in those days, we had IRC and we only had one channel, so we didn't have a dedicated rescue channel.
Yeah.
And I think, as Orange will remember, it was absolute chaos because everyone was chatting away and
trying
to run rescues at the same time. It was all good fun, but yeah, it was absolute chaos.
Well, and I remember, I know that early on in, I guess it was in 3301, if I'm doing the math right, that Frontier did something similar to what we're doing today and did a live stream with some of the rats. Were either of you guys involved in that? And I'm also curious what sort of interaction and support you guys have gotten from Frontier.
Well, we've gotten a PR basically that they are picking up our stuff and posting them onwards and all that, but and of course we got to be part of that stream, and there are perhaps a couple of those nice things they have done, but
we also used to collect a lot of data for instancing data and sending it. The developers we were basically harvesting our instancing data when we were having problems. And we used to send it to, I can't remember which one of the developers. So in theory, they were listening and using our data we collected to help improve the instancing issues.
And just quickly, I'm going to interrupt that. I did just see a rat signal in channel. However, the commander's okay, he messaged Mecca. It looks like the channel that the system that was posted does not exist. And I'm wondering if you guys can maybe help with this one a little bit from my noob specific, right? Because I was going to try to head that direction. I see that he's got it sent to Flyingzilla, who actually Flyingzilla saved me on when I did my video tutorial on how to use you guys. It was Flyingzilla that it helped me.
Yeah, and you're not going to catch him with that range.
Well, fair enough, right?
Flinchilla is a very experienced and fast rat.
That's not to say I wasn't still gonna head that way. Oh, there it goes. Okay, so I see the typo now.
Let's make a comment on that.
Why?
All those systems that don't exist, you can use the search command in Rat Chat to find the nearest matches to it, which can assist in finding which system it is.
Okay, and so he's... what did I see? I was 4 jumps. Yeah. Let's see if they let me head to this one. It's behind me. Stand down, all right. Well, we'll stand down. Well, damn, I was hoping we might get to do one, but we'll have to wait for the next one. So that answers my question from earlier, that if you do, you know, try to head out to one and they've got, you know, and somebody's actually already on the way, you know, they will just stand you down rather than, you know, rather than send multiple rats to it, right?
There's no point, and we have to have the reserve of unassigned rats.
Yeah, exactly.
Any additional cases.
Sure. Right. And thanks. I'm saying a few comments about the tutorial channel and stuff and the YouTube channel. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it a lot. Stolaris, or Stolas, if I'm saying that right, and Polar. I'm glad you guys are enjoying them. I have to admit, the welcome that I've gotten and the response I've gotten has been far, far greater than anything that I ever expected. Right. I had no expectations that, you know, that would have grown as fast as it has, and that, you know, in I've been doing this for 3 weeks now, that I'd be sitting here, you know, with you know, almost over 100 people, you know, discussing this kind of stuff. So, you know, if anything, I really appreciate everything I've gotten from you guys. So I'm just happy it's been helpful for those, right? And it's been a ton of fun. I mean, I've been thinking about doing exactly what we're doing right now for a few weeks before I finally did the announcement, and, you know, reached out to the rats, and then eventually got lined up with Orange, because I knew if I did this sort of format, that absolutely the first people I wanted to talk to were the rats, were you guys, right? You know, you've always been, you know, such an impressive player group to me. I've said it multiple times, right? That, you know, I feel pretty privileged to get to chat with you guys today, and, you know, to have gotten to do a rescue, you know, last night and today, and, you know, to get to officially call myself a rat, I think is a great thing. And, you know, I've said it a few other times, for those that are considering doing this, you absolutely should, you know, should go and join the rats. I'll say quickly, Spy, thank you very much if you join me on Patreon. That's fantastic. I try not to, you know, to shill my channel too much, but the Patreon links should be in the descriptions, guys. If you want to subscribe on Patreon, that's fantastic. You know that anything you do there goes to things like my, you know, my Adobe subscription that I use to, you know, to do everything I do for the channel. And also, the last thing I'll say there is, just know that it usually takes me about 2 hours per minute of video, right? So if I do a 4-minute video, usually that's probably a 4-minute video is probably somewhere in the 3 to 5 hour range, depending on, you know, on the topic, right? Some of them I can crank out pretty quick. Some of them, like the fuel rat video I'm doing now to join the rats, all in will probably wind up taking me about 6 hours for I think I looked at it's going to be about 5.5 minutes, something like that. So it's fun, but it's definitely a lot of work. And the guys that I play with here have been giving me shit for a while, because I haven't played Elite much in the last month, right? I do a lot of video editing, and then I play the game to capture video for the videos. So, you know, the few times I've actually sat down and jumped in VR and played, it's been fun, because I haven't played outside of VR this much since I've owned the game. So anyway, going back to, you know, and we're getting close to, you know, I did want to keep this one a little shorter and a little on time, since I tend to go long with the other stream, the tutorial stream. You know, I'll keep asking this. Any other questions or any other comments or stories that you guys would tell? Any other questions, right? Like, I've seen that you guys have had some great questions in chat. I haven't been paying a bunch of attention. Matt, have I missed anything kind of key in the questions?
Well, I could tell a couple of those stories. Someone earlier mentioned that we had a client who called help for an NPC, but we've also have had a client calling real life refueling help.
Oh, really?
Perhaps a couple of times, because I guess it's easy mistake for some to make, that they are. I can't remember where exactly it was, but someone had run out of real fuel on their real car.
Okay.
Tried to call us, but I can't remember if we managed to help that one. Also, we had.
Oh, that's fantastic. Okay.
Also, we had one client who called to us from about 100 years ago. He was playing the Elite 2 Frontier game, and had ran out in that, and called in to ask if we had any advice. Sadly,
that's fantastic.
We couldn't rescue him.
Sure. But wow, that's great. And actually, to that end, that's a really interesting point. And I know I know we've got a couple Eve players here. Are there organizations like this that exist for other games? And have you guys considered, branching out into other games other than Elite? Sid, I'll throw the first question to Sid if he's still listening. Is there a similar mechanic to this in Eve?
No fuel.
There's not. Okay.
Except in super carriers.
Yeah. Okay. And then I guess the second question back to Sheets and maybe Rust. Are there other games with this kind of mechanic that you guys have ever considered branching out into?
Not really, because we all are into Elite.
Yeah.
And this is with the current client rate. This is kind of a mouthful already. So.
Oh, of course. Yeah, of course it is. Right. And, a follow-up question to that, to both you and Rust, if he's still listening, roughly, and this is just a little curious, if you guys don't want to answer, it's fine. Like, how many hours a week do you guys generally get to play? And roughly how many hours do you guys have in game?
I used to play a lot more than I do now.
Okay.
An embarrassing amount of time. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I've got 3 accounts now.
Okay.
But my main account, my Rusty Collars account, is well over 10 weeks, maybe 12 weeks.
Okay.
Game time.
Okay.
So I play much less now. Sort of only a few hours a week.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. And I'm seeing a lot of people toss this in chat too. I'm curious, those in chat, like, my total hours, last time I looked, was around 2,600. So I'm kind of with you, Russ, there, in that a somewhat embarrassingly amount of time, right?
Well, I have a embarrassingly little amount of time, because I played quite a lot before I joined the Fuel Rats, but then when I took over the IRC channel thing, that thing ate my game time.
Yeah, fair enough. And sadly, I would obviously consider that game time, right? I'm seeing some interesting answers in chat right now, and one that I think, Chase, if I think it's Chase, just said he's got 2,000 hours and he bought the game in January of 2018. That's impressive. My God, man! Like
that's exactly what I said.
Wow. I mean, so basically, you just haven't even been sleeping. You pretty much eat, wake, and play Elite. Is that basically it?
I can confirm that. He doesn't sleep.
Wow.
At all.
I will admit I may have left the game open a few times when I went to bed.
Well, here's the thing, though, for those that don't know.
You just dozed.
And let's be clear. If you're looking at your Steam hours, that's not ever going to be accurate. But your in-game timer, it will only count if you're not AFK, and you get marked as AFK if you don't do any kind of input for 10 minutes, right? So you can't just leave the game open all night and get time for that, right? So if your in-game count or whatever it says, that's basically what you've spent playing the game, right?
Wow, I didn't realize.
Yeah. So either way, even if Steam says 2,000 hours, that's still a shit ton. But Steam is basically counting when the launcher is open, where the game in cockpit will count your actual played time. Right.
And yeah, I just checked. Steam reports I have been playing Elite since January 1st.
Yeah. Gotcha. And I see Stolas, I think we might have the leader right now at 5,000 hours. That's pretty great, right? And I bought the game in 3301 or in 2015, but I really didn't start playing it until about 2 years ago now. In fact, I bought an Oculus Rift at the time. My quick story was I was super disappointed with it. The night I got it, I couldn't believe how bad it was, how bad the screen door was, yada, yada, yada. And I decided to sell it, posted it to Craigslist. I was so disappointed. And then later that night, I thought, wait a minute. Doesn't that that dangerous game, doesn't that support VR? What is that thing called again? Right? And I was like, well, and I've got that Warthog flight stick in the closet that I'm not using. So, I got up my HOTAS, got Elite installed, and I remember within 5 minutes, I was sitting there thinking, there is no fucking way you can pull this away from my cold dead hands, right? Like I'm like instantly I was addicted, right? It was like somebody had just shot me with a big old needle of heroin, right? It was just like done, no chance, and and I've been into it pretty much ever since, right? Let's see. One question I was going to ask, I wanted to go back to, we were talking about ships at the beginning. And I think obviously there's some better ships for this. I would imagine the Asp Explorer, maybe a DBX, the Anaconda has got to be, kind of the ship for this. If you guys have any comments on that, what you prefer to use as your rat ship, the craziest rat ships you've seen, that kind of stuff.
Well, the Asp and Anaconda and perhaps DBX are the most common ones, but there are people fly other ships too. I think the Rat 9 is one of my favorites of the extreme ones.
Okay.
And also T7 is quite nice because it has that truck feeling, it's the maintenance truck that arrives, and when you drop into a instance with the client, you kind of it has that shape and the feel when you fly.
Yeah.
At least, but I'm a Lakon fan, so
same here. Specifically because of VR, I'm a big Lakon fan just because the cockpits are so fantastic.
But if we talk about the best ship in the game, that's definitely T6.
T6 all the way.
Really?
T6. Yep.
And why is that?
Well, it just is.
Okay, that's it.
Both Orange and I are T6 explorers, so we both like getting out and exploring in our T6s.
Yeah, okay. And do either of you guys play in VR? I'm just curious.
I've tested it once or twice, perhaps, but it's regular for me.
Yeah, okay. Same for you, Rusticlus.
I've avoided testing, trying a VR because I know if I like it, I'll end up going and buying one.
Oh, that's
my rig.
Yeah,
all the cost associated with that.
Yeah. And for those that haven't, like as everybody knows, my favorite thing to say is Elite is a fantastic game when played on a computer monitor. When you jump into VR, you're flying a fucking spaceship, right? It is that big of a difference. Right, it's really hard to get that until you've done it. And I've got multiple friends we play with that bought VR. They played for a long time and then bought VR, and every one of them has said, you know what? Now that I see it, you are absolutely right. That is exactly what it is. Right, it really is the difference, between a video game and flying a spaceship, right? I'm guessing a lot have seen, and if you haven't, Up Is Not Jump did that review video, Elite Dangerous in VR is a nightmare, something like that. If you've not seen it, and if anybody listening grabs the link and wants to post it, it is absolutely not only a fantastic review of Elite in VR, but just a random VR, a wonderful review of Elite in general. And it's hysterical, right? And he's dead on right that if you want to feel like you're flying a spaceship, there's nothing that comes close. I had some friends that kind of, they're not really gamers, so they really didn't understand, the addiction of a game like this. And then I've had a few over, and I've got a rather nice motion cockpit system, and had them jump in the cockpit, put VR on, and 5 minutes later I get it. Right? They just, instantly they're like, I completely see why you love this. Right. And I think Chase put that, yes, it is the most accurate video review of Elite I've ever watched. Right. Because it's very good about the critical things of Elite. It's very good about the positive things. It's very, very dead on. Right. OK, so quickly, I'm also going to jump here because I just saw another potential rescue come in. Let's see how far away we are from this one. Maybe we can, let's turn my HUD back on. Okay, 3 jumps.
And Flinchilla is already at 2 jumps, so.
Well, hey, maybe we can still at least join him. Let's see, because yeah, you're right. He's already got a leg up on me. So jump. And now would I say number 9 on my way? And see if if we'll get to do this one. And guys, I assume you would rather me not show live Fuel Rats IRC, correct?
Yeah, if you could avoid that.
Yeah, that's fine. That's why I'm asking. Right. Yep. So it's very similar to what we did before, guys. You know, I'll just kind of narrate as we go and see if they. Yeah, no problem, guys. I definitely won't want to keep things private. So we'll see if I can make it there. 2 jumps. All right. So they gave me a go. All right. So there's 3 of us. It looks like responding. About to say, let's make sure I still have limpets. Yes, I still have limpets. And hey, I'm not quite sparking, but I almost overheated on that time. Okay, and let's make sure this is our. Okay, so I'm watching friend requests, as you guys have noticed. Like during, you know, I'll pretty much take a friend request from anybody. So let's see.
I'd like to relate my own.
Yeah, please.
I had been playing in the game, I guess it was 10 days or so, and I had gone on one of the, I was on a Sidewinder. I'd set everything up, you know, to hop from point A to point B, and I was watching, you know, fuel jumps and stuff like that. I didn't know about the gal map that much. And I got into a point where I didn't have enough fuel. I had no idea what a fuel scoop was. And I'm going, well, I don't got enough fuel to hop there. Why don't I just straight drive there? So here I was trying to super cruise to the next star, and I'd gone around about 90 minutes out, and I redlined. Well, this is when I called Fuel Rats. I had 7 minutes on my timer, and they had me log out. They got the system there. Had 3 guys go out, and I could not tell them what star I was going towards. I had no memory as to what, you know, the crazy lettering was. And they got me logged in just long enough for them to find out what direction I was in. And no, I had not realized I had driven that far out. I was like 7 mil out, going towards the next star, and I redlined out there. And you know, I tried logging back out to the MM, and they got into position, and it was just one of those impossible situations. I only had 15 seconds left on my CR. My logging in got into the wing. The moment I hit the wing beacon, they got the wing beacon, and I blew at that point. And I'm going, well, these guys were so dedicated to try and save me, even though I really didn't have much to work with. These are the kind of people I want to be a part of, and that's what got me interested in being in the Fuel Rats.
That's great. That's great, right? And you know, and I'll continue to throw this to you guys. So right now we're waiting for Haha Donuts to send me a friend request. I'm seeing in Rat Channel that a couple of us are already here. Morngo is here with me. Flying Zilla said that he was in system, although he's obviously not instanced with us because I'm not seeing him yet. And I'm guessing from the length of time this is taking, this might be obviously a very new player because we've yet to get our friend requests, so we'll see if and when that comes in. Okay, it looks like Flying Zilla maybe got his friend request, so damn it, I was hoping to get first limpet on this one. Right.
You're gonna have to race me for it.
Are you here as well?
Yeah, that's me.
Oh, that is you, Morgan. Okay, sorry, now I see. Sorry, I didn't realize, I wasn't making the connection on the name, forgive me, right?
Oh, you're fine.
Okay, so we just got the friend request. Okay, so FR plus pound 9, and now I don't see his beacon yet. Do we really care? I guess it's better etiquette, sheets and guys, to have our beacon on as well.
Well, that doesn't matter much.
Okay.
But the protocol is that the client sends all the invites.
Yes, yeah, that I understand, because obviously if you don't want them getting confused and some random sending them a friend request and them thinking it's the rat and it's really not, you know. I think it is great. You know, we haven't talked about, and purposely don't really want to go too much into griefing, but it does seem to be a nice thing that the griefers tend to, it seems, leave you guys alone and not just spy on the rat channel and, you know, and try to find people that way, right? You know, I suppose they've got better people they can go attack, which is obviously a good thing. Okay, so we're still waiting for the wing request. And while we're doing this, if any of the other, I see some other names in here, Ramsey and Shat and some others that I don't recognize. If you guys want to jump in, if you guys have any stories you'd like to share, you know, long saves, stuff like that, you know, that I'd love to hear them.
Yeah, I don't know if I could be heard, but I think my favorite rescue was a guy in a Sidewinder who ran out of fuel and tried to fly between stars.
Yeah, okay. Oh, that's, you know what? That's a great thing. Talk about that. You know, explain that as if somebody doesn't understand how that works.
So basically, you can't actually fly between stars, but newer players don't seem to realize this fact. The way the stars work is that each of them is their own instance, and when you're hyperspace jumping, you're basically just switching instance between each star. But newer players, when they run out of fuel, they like to fly towards the nearest star that they can refuel from or something. This guy has made it about 300,000 light seconds out before running out of fuel. So it was the case of us just finding out which star he was flying towards, then flying ourselves 300,000 light seconds out. I think I made it within 8,000 light seconds of him when he joined the game.
And look who's going to get first limpet. All right.
It's always a nice sight. It's always a nice sight when you see 3 anacondas rescuing a Sidewinder.
Got it. And he's going. He's like, what the hell?
Okay, guys, that's enough limpets for the Sidewinder.
He's in a Cobra Mark III.
Since you got the first limpet, now it's your job to do the debriefing.
Yeah, so let's see if he's got
I mean, just
a fuel scoop. He does not.
Surround this guy and start firing limpets. I would have been a little freaked out too.
Yeah, and also the paperwork, lest Master Loon get on the view about that.
Oh, Master Loon gets on everybody about that.
Yeah, we don't anger the paperwork.
You don't want to invoke the wrath of Master Loon if you don't do the paperwork.
No, definitely not. So I do have an interesting.
Yeah, please, you guys, like, and at this point, Matt, I'll let you, like, if you want, Matt, if I kind of go quiet for a bit here while I'm chatting with this guy during the stories, please jump in and give a hand. But yeah, please go ahead with the story. Appreciate it.
So there was yet another Sidewinder, ran completely out of fuel, was on emergency oxygen. He was landed on a planet, and our fuel limpets can't get under the ship if they're landed on the planet to refuel them. So we had to have them load the non-Horizons version of Elite, and same with the rats. Well, I had never done a rescue of that type before, and when he loaded back up into orbit, he was in normal space, no fuel, so flight assist was off. There was no way that he could maintain his position above the planet. When we eventually instanced with him, we had a hell of a time catching up to him because he was falling towards the planet.
That's great. And forgive me, a minute ago we were talking about jumping between systems in Super Cruise. Did we get discussed about that's not possible to do?
I don't think we mentioned
please go into detail about that, right?
Yeah, you can reach the location of the system over in Super Cruise, but it will not load since the jumps are load screens for each system.
One curiosity which I found when I was exploring was as 2 systems which share the same galactic coordinates, so they were like the in-game it looked that the other system was something like 10 light seconds away from the other star, but it wasn't visible since they were different systems according to the game. So it's kind of interesting.
So right now I'm telling him how to filter. Can set
there are two systems in Elite that, for want of a better way of saying it, they're exactly the same. They're practically on top of each other. You know, it's just like Siamese twins. And if you get it off by just one light second, you end up in the other one instead of the one you're aiming for. There's two systems that are like that in Elite, and it's murderous to try and figure out which one you land in when you get there.
Okay, so I'm trying to see if, you know, like I've noticed I haven't gotten any replies from him, and I don't know if he's just overwhelmed or if he's or if he doesn't know how to open chat, and it just dawned on me. So I told him, you know, obviously press 2 to open chat. Okay, he got it. Okay, great. Great. You're most welcome. You're live on stream with about 100 folks. He says, hi, hey guys. Well, I think at this point I can leave him be. How often do you guys get requests? Okay.
So the briefing can go on a little bit depending on the client.
Sure, I would imagine some, like I know that, you know, my first rescue I asked a lot of questions, and a couple of times when I've just, you know, fucked up in between and forgotten to scoop or done something dumb, I'm like, yeah, I know what I'm doing. I'm just an idiot. You know, you don't have to waste your time with me, right?
And then we see you again the next day.
Exactly, right? And then it's like, yeah, I know I said I know what I was doing, right?
I think the longest debrief I'm aware of took, I think, 2 hours, and the client and the rat ended up in a station with the rat showing the client how to map fire groups.
Wait, say that again?
The longest debrief that I have heard of, thankfully it wasn't me, that's a ridiculous amount of time, but it took 2 hours, and the rat and client ended up in a station nearby with the rat showing the client how to map fire groups.
Oh goodness, okay, so like full on playing the game, right, versus just you know, saving him, right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
exactly.
Yeah, that's
like,
great.
The client had, I think, 15 minutes of game time before they called the rat.
Okay. Yeah, you know, just jump right in and say.
Good customer service.
That's great customer service, right? So now, if it's cool with you guys, Cheats, I'm going to go back to the browser and show closing out the case, if that's okay. Like doing the paperwork. Okay, so if we go here, so I got another message from it. I'm just going to click on to open the paperwork. And I'm going to say, we were on PC. Yes, it was successful. No, it was not a code red. At this point, I would give Morn, actually, Flyzilla got a limpet on him too, correct?
I think he did.
Yeah, so
I know he showed up.
Yeah, okay, so I'll leave that. It says, where did it happen? And that is the wrong system. So I need to change that. I love that you guys collect this this amount of data, right?
dispatched set the correct system, the paperwork should have the correct system on it already.
For whatever reason, it didn't in this one, right?
Thank you.
3, very simple. Save, did not have a scoop. Explain that, and he should add 1. Explained scooping, scoopable stars, and let's see, map filtering. And am I right, Sheets and rats here? That would be about all I'd need to do?
Yeah.
Yep. And then submit. And we're all done. And that's all there is to it. And now, am I right that there's a dashboard, right, that or the leaderboard, I guess I can bring up really quickly, if that's, again, okay with you guys? If it's not.
Just click on the left-hand side leaderboard or there.
Yeah.
It's your rescues.
Yeah, okay, and so here we go. The record right now for everyone is 1,300, which is just insane. Zeal, who is the one that saved me, it looks like he's roughly in the top 10 at 511. Let's find Fly. Oops. Fly and Zeal. Okay, he's got 220. And now let's find... And here we are at 2, a whopping 2 for Commander Exegius with a ton. It's amazing when you look through the list, right? You know, like how many have less than 10, you know, and how few have more than 10.
I actually asked the techies to get the counts, and the median of rescues done is about 6.
It's about 6, okay.
50% of all rats who have done rescues have done less than 6 or less rescues.
Wow,
and
yeah.
50% have done more than 6.
So for the most part, there is a good bit of folks that come, you know, they go through the process, they do 1 or 2, and kind of, I would imagine to a degree, they've checked that off their list in that they've done their rat, they've engaged in that kind of gameplay, and they go back to what their normal kind of thing. Is that about right?
Yeah. For whatever reason, and every rat is appreciated.
Okay.
So
great. I was just about to ask, and as far as you guys are concerned, that's not a negative thing at all. Is that right?
Yeah, definitely not. We appreciate everyone who comes and does as many rescues as they do. But if it's just one, then it's one life saved, kind of, and all lives matter. So, you know.
This is weird. I don't know if you guys are looking at my screen, but it's showing me that my next jump is behind a star or is blocked. Oh, that was interesting. I don't know if you guys saw that. It showed me, imagine that, a bug in Elite. It showed me that it was unjumpable, and I had to replot it to get it to allow me to jump. That was weird. All right, well, you know, I think we're getting pretty close. You know, we've gone over time a little bit here. I think we're getting close enough to the end that, you know, I'll kind of start wrapping this up. And I'm just, you know, before we do that, I wanted to throw out another chance to the viewers. If anybody has any other questions that we haven't covered. Matt, have you noticed any questions coming in that I've been missing? Did we lose Matt? We did lose Matt. We did lose Matt. I don't know if anybody else has been watching chat, if you guys have noticed anything that that I've missed chat-wise, or if the viewers have gotten questions that that I haven't seen. Nigel, I'll just run through. I'm seeing here, Nigel. Yeah, I think the number we've been throwing around is between 50 and 60 a day are the number of rescues that the rats are doing. So yes, there are quite a few.
And there are peaks naturally, especially when there are big sales. Then the rescue count goes up.
I would imagine. I didn't even think about that. Big sales on the game, correct?
Excuse me.
Yeah, I was just saying, like, when there's big sales, you know, a lot of new commanders are buying the game. Sure. Right.
And when the PS4 launched, then that was I think that was the top peak. There were several days when it was just mental. It was almost like 200 rescues per day.
I was actually going to ask that if you knew what the most rescues in a day, you know, was, right? If there was a way to find that number.
Yeah, it was about something like that.
Yeah, gotcha. And so I think somebody asked, based on a response I'm seeing, like, what do you get out of this? Like, what rewards do you get? And I think the very simple answer is you get the reward of, altruism, getting to help out, playing, if you're a support class type player in other games, that kind of thing. It's a lot of fun.
That's a darn good question, actually. I haven't received my paycheck yet, and it's almost 3 years now.
That's right. Like, if you think about your pay per hour of ratting, it's pretty low. And as somebody mentioned to me when I was doing my drill, I was just talking about things to do, and they said, well, yeah, as you're going, you can honk systems and sell your exploration data so you can cover your limpet costs. Right? Because, it's actually costing us time and even credits for the fuel you're burning, the limpets you're buying. So there is actually a demonstrable cost. And I have to imagine if you do this for any length of time, at some point, well, we're all going to at some point, get griefed in game, right? So at some point it's going to cost you a rebuy even.
Perhaps. But most rats who join are kind of... they are well ahead in the game.
That's right. That's right.
This is a nice thing to do when you've seen it all.
Yeah, one of the things
you don't have to worry about the financial side. Except the real life financial side.
Sure. And I see Chase just said that he saw a max of 167 rescues in a day, which is enormous when you think about the time. Of course, the Snickers that you get, right? And
just consider that if we have 167 rescues in one day, those aren't evenly spread, so there are multiple rescues at a time. So a dispatcher may have to juggle about a dozen cases at the same time.
And that's actually a great question. Is there a single dispatcher working at any moment, or are there multiple dispatchers?
Single dispatcher.
Yeah, okay. And I assume that's to become a dispatcher. I imagine that's kind of the highest level, so to speak, and that's obviously would be something very difficult to attain. Is that basically right?
Well, you have to know what you're doing, so if you feel like it, you can grab it, but if you mess with it, then you're done pretty much.
Yeah.
So this is quite strict statement, but basically, if you take the hat, don't mess up.
Yeah, absolutely. And are the dispatchers generally playing the game while they're dispatching, or are they pretty focused on just dispatch?
I hope they are not playing the game while they are dispatching.
Yeah.
That's one of the why dispatching is so popular among the rats, is that you can do it from anywhere where you can connect the field. Sure. So you don't have to be near the game to do it. So.
And somebody just asked, and I'm gonna screw your name up. Quanhilti. I'm not even gonna try. We know who I'm asking about. He's asking about synthesizing oxygen. And yes, absolutely. If you're on life support at this point, you can. I'll show you really quickly. Over on your right panel, under synthesis, you can just choose. Let me find it. Life support right there. It costs 2 iron and 1 nickel. And whatever your life support class is, if it's a class A, you get 25 minutes. If it's D, you get 7.5. You get that full amount of additional oxygen. So for those that also don't know, a D class life support is quite a bit lighter than an A class. So there's very little reason for a combat ship to run A class, or really any ship, other than combat ships that have fighter bays, where a fighter bay requires life support to be requires it to be functional to be able to deploy a fighter. And the other difference in A and D class is A class life support has a lot more integrity, right? Let's see if there's any other 2 rescues. So Chase, if you're still here in voice, why don't you explain that story you just posted in chat a little bit better?
Kind of embarrassing story, actually. So
hey, we all fuck up. Don't sweat it.
So I was on a long-range rescue, just doing jumps every minute or so. I'd swap back to elite, turn my ship, point at the next system, hit the jump button. The rendezvous time was like well after the time I would get there, just because the client had to go to sleep. he was going to wake up, hop back on so I could refuel him. And yeah, no one was online. Case came in, so I'm like, yeah, why not? I can jump and dispatch a case. So I go dispatch the case. Another one comes in, and I do a few more jumps working on both cases and get distracted looking at the cases. One of them went code red, and yeah, after the rescue, I'm like, oh shit, I need to. And I'm looking at a rebuy screen.
Oh, you yourself died while doing it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. At first, I thought, I'm glad you clarified, because I thought you were implying that the client had gotten killed, right? So a little less bad, you know, that you were the one that ate shit, right?
Yeah, but still, that was a $9 million rebuy.
Oh, well, of course,
rebuy.
of course,
And
of course.
I think I had like 20 million at that time, so that kind of hurt.
Yeah, no, yeah, absolutely, absolutely, right. And I want to go to a comment, just quickly back to a comment that Bruno was asking about life support and fighter bays. Pretty simple. If your life support is out, like the module is at 0 and it's destroyed, you can't deploy a fighter. So if you're in, you know, a Corvette, a gunship, something like that, where you're doing combat and relying on your fighter, especially if you're doing something that's, you know, a hull tank ship like that, like if you were going to do a hull tank Corvette, you know, biweave, something like that, you definitely want an A-rated life support there, as you can't deploy, you know, you can't deploy your fighter if your life support is out. And I'm going to go to the comment that Kerman, am I saying that right, guys, by the way? Is it Kerman, Commander Kerman, is saying, like, the reason he got into the rats is to help new players. I mean, that's the reason I started the YouTube channel, right? It's, as a lot of us know, you see the comment a lot in Elite that there's nothing to do, right? Or, you know, the No Man's Sky type comment where, you know, it's a mile wide and an inch deep. And I don't necessarily, I mean, it's not necessarily wrong, but at the same time, I think those of us that have played Elite a lot know that Elite's the kind of game where you make your own fun. Right? You need to decide who you are, what it is you want, you know, what it is you want out of the game, and what you put into the game is what you're going to get out of it, right? So I think for me, the social aspects of Elite are what keep me playing, and so something like the Fuel Rats is a very natural thing for me. I think the only reason I haven't done it thus far is just time, and, you know, I've kind of been focused more on other things, on, you know, PvP or, you know, or combat or whatever it might be, where I just hadn't gotten around to this yet. And, you know, here we are at roughly 2,500 hours, and I've finally gotten around to it. Right. So I think that, you know, if you haven't done it, I've said this several times, if you haven't done it yet, I think you definitely should. You know, it was a little intimidating at first because there's a lot to read. There's a lot to go through. There's a lot to understand. But when you do that first drill, you know, the overseer that helped me do it, the guy that played Damsel, were extremely helpful. Right. Were very nice. You know, there wasn't any like, oh, dude, what the hell? You know, wasn't any kind of attitude like that, right? And
that has come naturally because the original people and the people who have followed have had that mentality from the get-go. So
exactly, it's
the
that
community is nice because the people in the community are nice. So.
Yep. You know, it all starts at the top, right? And with a group like this, you know, I can't imagine how, I mean, I wasn't surprised by that at all, right? I absolutely expected that because we are all here via, you know, donating our time to save some guy like we did just a few minutes ago who's just started playing the game, doesn't know what they're doing, probably in a lot of ways doesn't necessarily want to bother anybody, right? And doesn't understand yet that this is just part of the game and how much the rats enjoy this kind of thing. You know, I wouldn't say that the few times I've set in channel hoping someone runs out of fuel, but in a small way, you know, that's what you're open for, right? Give me something to do, right? So, and Dean, thanks for stopping by, buddy. If you can still hear me, I absolutely appreciate the input that you had and for jumping in Discord with us. That was great. Oh, I see that Shattered said that he took his combat vet out for a rescue. I gotta imagine that would freak out a client a little bit, right?
A little bit.
Yeah, you drop in and all of a sudden that, right? Why is there a Corvette here, right?
You know, just think of the first scene in the Star Wars
Oh yes, exactly. With the big Corvette is chasing Leia's ship. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, flying over you. And
yes.
all that.
Yes, right. And Invertible, if I'm saying that right, in Twitch just had a great point, right? People feel like, like the guy was like, oh, I'm sorry I did something stupid, right? And especially we, the more advanced players understand how complex this game is, right? How the learning curve is just insane. I mean, look, if this game had an easy learning curve, none of you guys would be listening to a schmuck like me, doing tutorial videos helping you learn it. Right. And I've certainly never played a game anywhere close to this in depth. I'm sure Sige and some of the Eve players would probably argue, which is more difficult. Right. And it doesn't really matter. They all are. Right. And when you've got something like this, having a community that's willing to jump in and help like this, I think is critical. And I think in some ways, Elite has been successful despite some of the things Frontier has done, and it's because of the community. Yeah, there definitely can be some very toxic guys in the community, but for the most part, I think it's an incredibly helpful community, right? And just to be clear, since I didn't say anything at the beginning, the vodka that I'm drinking is not actually vodka. It's green Gatorade that my green screen filters out and makes looks clear, which the first time I streamed and I was drinking this cracked me up. In fact, the lid is for the bottle I'm drinking is also green, so it shows up as clear too. So yeah, I'm not just sitting here getting tanked.
That's cheating.
Right. As much as I would love to be, just sitting here getting tanked, but I think I'd be pretty sloppy after 2.5 hours of this. Right.
Next time you claim it's just an ice tea.
Exactly.
Bottle.
Exactly. Right.
That's
what I do all the time.
Drinks on standby whenever somebody from NLTT 48288 calls for a rescue.
And is that I saw somebody post in chat earlier about the most common system because it's right at the distance where a Sidewinder would run out of fuel. Is that the system that you're talking about?
Yeah, that's NLTT 48288. We've got a tendency that anytime we see a rescue from that system, we take a drink.
Okay, gotcha. That's what you do, a shot when it's that, right?
Yeah.
Let me pull that up real quick.
Because in a stock Sidewinder, if you set course to Sol, that is the system in which you will run out of fuel every single time.
Gotcha. And tell me the system name again?
NLTT 48288.
NLT 42... Wait, say that one more time, slowly.
NLTT 48288.
288. There we go. Okay, there we go. Right. So so
amusingly enough, the system is in the wrong direction from Sol, but because of how economic routing works and that being the default when you start up the game, that's where it takes you.
Gotcha. Actually, that's a quick thing to mention, just in case we have any really new players here. When you're on the routing tab here, it's generally going to be set for fastest, right? Economical routing will do exactly what it says. It will route you through as many small jumps as possible. And the easiest way to explain that, if you're going 10 light years, one 10 light year jump will use significantly more fuel than 10 1 light year jumps. Right. So if you do find yourself stranded somewhere, sometimes, like if I plot this, for example, let's jump back in the ship and see how many routes that jumps that is. That's 3. Well, if I do that same trip, let's go back over here, and I do that with economical routing. Now let's see how many jumps that's going to be. It was 3 before. Now it's 19. Right? But those 19 jumps will use far, far less fuel than those 3 jumps would. Right? So that's another good way to potentially, save yourself a call. Not that we necessarily want you to, but that's another way to save yourself a call, if you get stuck somewhere. Well, if there aren't any other specific questions, from chat or stories, I think we'll go ahead and wrap this up a bit. I'll leave, like I typically do, I'll leave the stream actually running for a bit, in case, not to just shut down chat, in case there are more questions and comments that want to come through, right? I first want to end by thanking Orange Sheets a ton for all his help today. He and I chatted back and forth in Discord for about last week and a half, if not 2, kind of getting this planned and, figuring out the day. So I really appreciate you taking, 3 hours out of your evening, right? Because it's not super late for you, but it's definitely later in the evening for you, correct?
Well, it's Friday night, so...
Oh, that's true. I guess it is Friday, isn't it? But still, I really appreciate your time, buddy. This was absolutely great. Your willingness to do this was fantastic. A big thanks to all of the Fuel Rats just in general, for such a fantastic organization, and for something so simple, right, yet so complex at the same time. A final thanks to all of you guys for joining in and participating in the chat, and keeping this a lively discussion. I was a little worried that this one wouldn't be so, because we would just be jumping around a little bit and doing the save, but the questions we've gotten have been great. Thanks to those that joined in Discord with us, especially to Rust and Chase for jumping in. Morngo helped me last night when I was doing my first, during my drill, right, and that was great. Puffle, who's not here at the moment, I'll shout out to him too, because he was really helpful last night. And Orange, I'll kind of leave it to you. Do you have any parting words or comments to to share with everybody?
Yeah, well, thanks to you for organizing this, and thanks to all rats for doing the rescues, and the audience for asking nice questions, and what else? Well,
we have fuel.
We have fuel. You don't.
I think that's a fantastic way to leave it. So, that, don't hesitate to call the rats if you need them, guys. I do. Absolutely right. Does somebody, do you want to share that in your native tongue, Orange?
No, that's about it.
Okay, gotcha. I do have, I should have mentioned this off the top. I do have a video tutorial on how to use the Fuel Rats, right? So it's a very simple process, but I figured when I was planning this, I wanted to throw that together. I also have a video I'll be releasing later today that is what we did today, how to become a rat, some basics on the drill, the documentation, stuff like that. So I'll post that later on this afternoon. So have a look for that. And with that, thanks again to everybody. And I look forward to seeing, for those that are new, Tuesday nights EST. So it's at 8 p.m. EST, unfortunately midnight GMT on Tuesdays. I do Tutorial Tuesdays, so that'll be coming up next Tuesday. So I hope you guys can join for that. Otherwise, I will see everybody soon.